Chapter 1371. The one who killed Luo Lu, didn't he? A charming smile appeared on Flower Snake's face, as if she had discovered the most interesting thing in the world. Her words were like a tranquil needle that instantly froze everyone in the room. Sun Yi, Qing Yin, and the rest all stopped fighting at the same time, their faces filled with shock. "What did you say?" A disciple of the Imperial Sword Gate shouted. The corner of Flower Snake's mouth twitched. He shook his body in midair, and his slender body immediately returned to normal. She gently lifted her willow, branch-like arm and pointed her finger at the inconspicuous platform. "Hee, brother, long time no see. You came at the right time. I can't forget how you killed Luo Lu with a star battle seal in the North Ice region." The Flower Snake's charming smile was like a poisonous black rose. It was bright and frightening. Her words instantly attracted everyone's attention. Everyone's gaze followed the direction she was pointing at. On the half-collapsed platform, a young man and a young woman with calm and steady auras stood side by side. Beside them was a well-built black and white little beast. No one noticed their arrival just now, but in the blink of an eye, they had become the focus of everyone's attention. "Who is this? I don't know. I don't think I've seen him before. This person killed Luo Lu." Everyone whispered to each other. They didn't seem to believe it. Although Luo Lu could not be counted as a first-rate genius, he was still considered to have a bit of fame. There were still a few people who knew him. Chu Hen looked to be too young, and was not a person with great methods like what Flower Snake said. But Flower Snake wouldn't just throw the blame at anyone, so everyone was surprised. At the same time, the profound Yang Palace and the Heaven-Gathering Pavilion were restless. This was especially true for lethal elegance Lu Wuyue and tin-feathered demonic blade Li Yinqing. "It's him." Yiao's brows furrowed slightly as the crowd gathered around her. A hint of wariness appeared on her face. On the other hand, Chu Hen's face was calm. He looked straight at Flower Snake's seductive face without any change in his emotions. It has indeed been a long time. The moment he said that, the gazes of everyone from the Imperial Sword Gate sank slightly. Chu Hen's words directly indicated that he had indeed met Viper before. A young man from the Imperial Sword School raised his sword and questioned, "Did you really kill Luo Lu?" Chu Hen glanced at him indifferently, an invisible arrogance mixed with a bit of indifference. "I killed him." He directly admitted it. He didn't hide it at all. Flower Snake smiled. His smile was especially proud. Qing Yin and the others from Huanyu Hall also revealed expressions of watching the show. "Not just Luo Lu, I killed Lu Qian too," Chu Hen said calmly. It was as if he was talking about something that had nothing to do with him at all. He was so calm that it made people feel an inexplicable palpitation. "You?" The disciple from the Imperial Sword Gate who asked the question was directly shocked by Chu Hen's indifference and immediately lost his confidence. Especially the moment he met Chu Hen's deep gaze. A fear that came from the depths of his soul arose spontaneously. The hand that held the sword began to tremble, and the words that he wanted to say were directly stuck in his throat. "This person does have some skill." He entered the profound Sun Palace, said in a deep voice to Heaven-Gathering Pavilion's Yang Su. The latter also nodded. "If he fights with the Imperial Sword Gate, it will also be beneficial to us." No matter what the situation is, it will be beneficial to us. He Yin and Yang Su looked at each other, and a sinister sneer appeared on their faces. However, the two of them, who had ulterior motives, didn't notice Lu Wuyue and Li Yinqing, who were shivering in the group behind them. It wasn't just Luo Lu. There was also Lu Qian. When they heard these two sentences, everyone from the Imperial Sword Gate immediately pulled out their swords. Whoosh! A piercingly cold killing intent spread out like a gust of cold wind. Each of them revealed a fierce expression as they stared at Chu Hen and Li Yinqing. The young man called Sun Yi stared coldly at Chu Hen's calm and handsome face. His throat moved up and down as he coldly spat out a few words. "Who exactly are you?" "Who?" This was also the question that the others present were curious about. Chu Hen looked straight at the other party's sword-like gaze. "Martial ancestor, Chu Hen, Hua." The voice wasn't loud, but it was deafening to everyone's ears like a clap of thunder. In an instant, the entire canyon was in an uproar. Everyone's faces were filled with dense shock. What? He's Chu Hen? He's the one who led the martial ancestor to slaughter the Lingyun sex group? He's too young. No wonder he dared to come here alone. It said that Thunderbolt Hand Li Xiong and Divine Sword Qi Si were both killed by him. Other than Yuan Yi, who escaped, everyone from the Lingyun sect was massacred. He's really a ruthless character. The way they looked at Chu Hen instantly changed. If someone mentioned the name Chu Hen 10 days ago, it was believed that not many people had heard of it. However, in these few days, these two words struck the eardrums of countless people like thunder. The reason was all because of the Lingyun sect. This top sect that stood above many first-rate forces had been massacred in the battle at the Sky Lake, washing 1,000 miles in blood. Other than Yuan Yi, who escaped, no one else survived. Without a doubt, this was definitely one of the most shocking events in the history of the Holy War. All the disciples of the sect were killed. It cannot be said that it wasn't cruel. It cannot be said that it was not shocking. It cannot be said that it did not make people's scalps numb. When the world found out that the one who massacred the Lingyun sect was a martial arts sect, it caused a huge commotion. Everyone knew that during the last Holy War, the martial arts sect met with the Lingyun sect. It was extremely tragic, especially when all the top geniuses of the martial arts sect who had the bloodline of the Saint Body were all crippled. It caused many people to feel sympathy. Now the cycle had changed. The martial arts sect used an even more ruthless and overbearing method to massacre the Lingyun sect, shocking everyone. As for the Chu Hen, who had almost single-handedly turned the tide and heavily injured one of the 3 geniuses on the ranking of the Cloud Soaring School and killed 2 of them, his reputation rose even more, and he became impatient to be called to the Holy War. At this moment, everyone understood that the inconspicuous person in front of them was the real ruthless character. He is Chu Hen? On the profound Yang Palace's side, Yang Su's and He Yan's faces were as pale as paper. The sinister smiles that hung on their faces a second ago had disappeared without a trace, replaced by unconcealable fear and unease. At the same time, over at the Huanyu Palace, everyone fell into silence. This was especially so for Flower Snake. Her previous complacency had completely disappeared. Although she knew that the person who killed Luo Lu with the North Star art was a martial arts sect disciple, she never would have thought that the person's name was Chu Hen. Unconcealable uneasiness floated in Flower Snake's eyes. She had already indirectly offended this ruthless character who caused people to fear. The people who were in the most difficult situation were naturally the people from the Imperial Sword Gate. Sun Ye's hand that was holding the sword seemed to be slightly weak. He looked at Chu Hen, and the atmosphere fell into an unprecedented state of anxiety. Chu Hen looked at everyone coldly. Chapter 1372. Those who wish to kill me, draw your sword. An invisible, imposing aura swept out in all directions, and a mountain-like aura suppressed everyone present. Chu Hen stood on the platform like a king who looked down on everyone. Those who wish to kill, draw your sword. This was a provocation and a deterrent. Who wishes to kill me? Who dares to draw their sword? Chu Hen coldly looked at Sun Yi, Flower Snake, and the others in the canyon in front of him. His deep eyes were filled with arrogance and provocation. Flower Snake's expression changed again and again. Her bewitching and sharp face was filled with unease, as if she was riding a tiger. This was the source of trouble that she had singled out. If she had not deliberately stirred up trouble, Chu Hen would only be standing silently on the sidelines as a spectator. However, it was precisely because she thought herself clever that the entire Huanyu Hall fell into an incomparably awkward situation. Flower Snake no longer spoke. More accurately speaking, she did not dare to speak again. She, who had stirred up trouble to watch the show, felt as if she had touched the whiskers of a tiger, causing the tiger to bare its sharp and cold fangs. The Imperial Sword Gate was also in a dilemma. If they retreated, the Imperial Sword Gate would definitely lose face today. However, if they advanced, they would not be a match for Chu Hen. Amidst his anxiety, Sun Ye's gaze slanted and secretly swept towards Yang Su and He Yin, who were on the other side. According to the rumors, Profound Sun Palace's Lu Ming Hong and Equal Heaven Pavilion's Qin Shui, the two geniuses on the honor list, had also died at the hands of Chu Hen. If they joined forces with Yang Su and He Yin, as well as Huan Yuhal's Qin Yin, there would be a total of 4 Saint King stage experts. It was not impossible for them to defeat Chu Hen. Moreover, most of the disciples of these 4 forces were here, while there were only 2 people on Chu Hen's side. On the surface, there was no need to be afraid. The situation seemed to be surging in the dark. Yang Su and He Yin naturally understood this as well. The restlessness and coldness gradually spread. The sudden cold wind swept up the dust and sand on the ground. Everyone present seemed to have understood something and consciously retreated. In an instant, only Yao and Noni were left by Chu Hen's side. The 3 figures stood alone on the platform, facing the army of the 4 great forces. Even so, there was not a hint of fear on Chu Hen's face. He was so steady that it was terrifying and so calm that it made people feel uneasy. If it was any other time, the 4 major forces would have crushed the 2 of them into dregs. But as long as they thought of the tragic end of the cloud-soaring sect, everyone actually couldn't muster up the slightest bit of courage. Regardless of whether it was Sun Yi, Yang Su, or He Yin, none of them dared to rashly take the lead. As for Huan Yuhal's Qin Yin, it was even more impossible. She didn't even want to participate. After all, there was no direct enmity between Huan Yu Palace and Chu Hen. It was just colorful Snake acting smart and provoking Chu Hen. As long as Huan Yuhal retreated, they would be able to escape unscathed. It was also because of this that the Imperial Sword Gate, Profound Yang Palace, and Heaven Condensing Pavilion did not dare to act rashly. This was because the 3 great forces combined could not defeat a fallen Lingyan sect. Screech! Suddenly, just as everyone was feeling uneasy and unable to make a decision, a sharp and ear-piercing bird cry suddenly resounded in the sky outside the canyon. This bird cry was like a thin needle that pierced through a water ball, directly breaking the tense atmosphere on the field. Everyone subconsciously raised their heads to look at the sky, only to see a terrifying and ugly blood-red bird beast flying over. There was not a single bit of flesh on this bird beast's body, only its skeleton supporting it. Even its wings were a pair of bone wings, and its eyes, which were suffused with a bloody light, looked like an evil creature from hell. Lady Slayer Bird. It's the Lady Slayer Bird. A trembling cry of alarm rang out from the crowd. In an instant, the expressions of everyone present changed. Everyone's eyes were filled with unconcealable shock. The Lady Slayer Bird, a bloodthirsty creature. Once the Lady Slayer Bird appears, it will definitely drink blood. Could its master be here? It can't be wrong. He's here. Whoosh! A raging cold wind swept across the world, and the sky above the canyon suddenly surged. As a huge pressure shrouded the area, a bloody mist appeared in the void. 2 figures gradually emerged from the bloody mist. Screech! Another long cry from the Lady Slayer Bird caused the crowd to tremble, and the surrounding beasts fled. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes slightly narrowed, and a cold expression appeared on his face. Yao, who was standing to the side, had a hint of worry between her eyebrows. She had a premonition that this unfriendly arrival was related to them. Looking at the 2 figures that gradually walked out of the bloody mist, everyone felt extremely pressured, and they almost couldn't breathe. Shortly after, the leader of the group stood on the peak of the canyon. Everyone present, including Sun Yi, He Yin, Yang Su, Qin Yin, and the other geniuses on the honor list, turned pale as their hearts quietly trembled when they sensed the powerful aura of slaughter coming from the other party's body, as well as the eyes that were filled with the signal of death. Fear. Absolute fear. If Chu Hen's appearance was said to be more shocking and fearful, then the arrival of this person was definitely filled with fear and reverence. If they were still hesitant about Chu Hen, then this person did not dare to provoke him at all. Yes, it's him. It's really him. It can't be wrong. He's the war god of slaughter. Everyone's eyes narrowed as they welcomed the arrival of this person with the most solemn expression. Sun Yi, Yang Su, and the others frowned as they muttered softly. War God Palace. Chen Lu. War God Palace. No matter who heard these 3 words, it was like an insurmountable mountain. It was like a colossus. Even the Imperial Sword School, Huan Yu Palace, Profound Sun Palace, and other first-rate forces of the Midland were not worth mentioning in front of the War God Palace. The name Chen Lu was regarded as a code for slaughter, blood, and viciousness. He was one of the 5 Saint Kings of the War God Palace. People called him the War God of Slaughter, and he was a terrifying existence ranked 19th on the wind cloud list. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air from the bottom of their hearts. It was as if being under dust murderer's pressure was an extremely dangerous thing. Oh my God, the 19th place on the wind cloud list is a height I can never reach in my life. Yes, the geniuses of the War God Palace are too terrifying. Chen Lu's cultivation is probably above the 5th order Saint King realm. Terrifying. The higher one was on the wind cloud list, the more terrifying the competition. Those who could be ranked in the top 20 were the top geniuses of the Midland. They carried too much dazzling light, like the stars and the moon, making it difficult for people to reach their heights. While everyone was shocked by the arrival of the War God of Slaughter, Chen Lu, they immediately looked at the other figure behind him in surprise. Compared to Dust Slaughter's radiance, that person clearly paled in comparison. His face was gloomy, and his aura was cold. The sleeve of his right hand was empty, obviously missing a large piece. That person is Yuani. A slightly uncertain voice came from the crowd. Yes, it's Yuani. Wow, there was an uproar. Everyone was shocked and surprised. At this moment, Yuan was in dire straits. He did not have the peerless elegance of the Lingyun sect's #1 genius. Especially when he stood next to Chen Lu, he was even more dim. Receiving the strange looks from the crowd, Yuan Yi's face became even more gloomy. His cold eyes flickered, and he looked at the young figure standing on the platform below, full of hatred and hatred. Chapter 1373. Once Lu Sun appeared, he would definitely drink blood. The sudden arrival of Chen Lu from the God of War Palace instantly dispelled the anxiety and unease that should have been present. Just one person caused the people from the ruling Sword Gate, Huan Yu Hall, Profound Sun Palace, Heaven Gathering Pavilion, and the other major factions to tremble. Just as everyone was shocked by Chen Lu's arrival, they could not help but guess Chen Lu's goal when Yuan followed him. The battle at the cloud-soaring sect. Only Yuan had fled in panic. In less than a month, Chen Lu had come with him. His goal was obvious. You really made it hard for me to find you. Yuan Yi's eyes were filled with unconcealable killing intent. His hatred for Chu Hen was so strong that he wanted to skin him alive. There was no doubt in anyone's mind that this scene was real. It was obvious that Chen Lu had come straight for Chu Hen. I didn't expect Yuan Yi to seek help from the God of War Palace. Actually, I've long heard that the cloud-soaring sect was secretly connected to the God of War Palace. Now that I look at it, it seems like the rumors are not groundless. It's true. Angering the God of War Palace is the end of one's life. Everyone whispered to each other. At the same time, the way they looked at Chu Hen changed again. Her previous doubt, then fear, and now it had turned into sympathy. In everyone's eyes, if Chu Hen was a ruthless character, then Chen Lu was a ruthless character among ruthless characters. Facing the God of War Palace, a mere martial ancestor was no different from an ant. Big Brother Chu Hen? Yi Yao frowned slightly, and her lily-white hands clenched into fists. Chu Hen glanced to the side, indicating that she did not need to worry. At the same time, Chen Lu's gaze swept across the people below like he was pronouncing a death sentence. It seems like I came at the right time. His indifferent words didn't contain the slightest hint of emotion. You all want to kill him? Chen Lu asked with interest. The expressions of Sun Yi, Yang Su, Hien, and the others could not help but change. It was as if Chen Lu had seen through all the thoughts in their hearts. The gap between a genius and a monster was self-evident. Haha, Dust Slaughter chuckled playfully. He didn't seem to be in a hurry to make a move. He seemed to find the strange and anxious expressions of everyone present very amusing. Those who want to kill him, you can do it now. Everyone was startled. Chen Lu pointed at Chu Hen, who was still standing in his original spot. Then, he spoke to the others in an inviting manner. It was like a support from a mountain. Dust Slaughter's meaning was very simple. With him here, anyone who wanted to make a move against Chu Hen could do so. As soon as these words came out, Sun Yi, Yang Su, Hien, and the others' eyes lit up. This was especially so for Lu Wuyue, who had a lot of resentment towards Chu Hen. Li Yinxing even clenched his fists as a gloating look appeared in his eyes. With a backer like Dust Slaughter here, what did a single Chu Hen count for? Their hesitation instantly turned into a resolute chill. The restlessness in their hearts was like a rapidly growing bud. Everyone aimed their sharp ends at Chu Hen. However, at this moment, Chu Hen's calm and unhurried words caused everyone's hearts to tremble slightly. I'm afraid you can't be their backer. Whoosh, like a cold wind blowing past, everyone felt a chill run down their spines. Everyone stared at the calm Chu Hen as if they were looking at a monster. Is this guy really? Does he not know who he's facing? The temperature in the Great Canyon seemed to have dropped to freezing point. No one had expected Chu Hen to still be so arrogant. However, in the eyes of the crowd, this arrogance was too laughable. Defeating the Lingyun sect has already made him so arrogant that he doesn't know the situation. I think there's a bit of a problem. Didn't we also not expect the martial sect to be able to slaughter the Lingyun sect? The Lingyun sect is the Lingyun sect. The one standing in front of him now is the War God Palace. Chen Lu was not angry at all. He smiled at Chu Hen. I didn't hear clearly just now. What did you say? Chu Hen did not panic in the slightest as he met Chen Lu's gaze. I said that with your ability, I'm afraid you won't be able to support them. This time, it was real and extremely clear. No one present dared to make a sound. Dust Slaughter smiled. His smile was terrifying. Not a bad greeting. You will be the first person I remember in the Holy War. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Sun Yi from the Imperial Sword School suddenly exploded with an extremely powerful sword aura. He leaped up with his sword and formed dozens of illusory, sword-light shadows in the air. Chu, I'll end your arrogance on behalf of War God Chen Lu. There was no hesitation. Sun Yi completely believed in Chen Lu's ability. At the same time, Hien from the Profound Sun Palace and Yang Su from the Heaven Gathering Pavilion also released their auras. Powerful true origin energy flowed around their bodies. In their eyes, this was not only a great opportunity to get rid of Chu Hen, but it was also a good opportunity to build a good relationship with the War God Palace. Whoosh! Sun Yi's sword aura was shocking. The sword shadows that filled the sky were like a net of stars that shrouded the world. The dazzling, illusory afterimages were all pressed down. One after another, extremely sharp sword lights went straight for Chu Hen and Chu Yu who were on the platform. The surrounding people were secretly shocked. As expected of the Imperial Sword School's #1 person, each ray of sword energy was filled with the power to kill. However, in the face of such exquisite and powerful sword techniques, Chu Hen, who stood on the platform, did not move at all. In the next moment, 2 fingers of Chu Hen's left hand suddenly stretched out. As if taking something out of a cage, they directly plunged into the sword net that was wantonly intertwined. With a heavy sound of air waves, the sword aura that was comparable to the arrival of storm suddenly sank into a state of stillness. Between the index and middle fingers of Chu Hen's left hand, an incomparably sharp sword blade was accurately and steadily caught between them. So fast, everyone's expression changed. It was unbelievable that such dense sword energy could stop a person's sword. Sun Yi was suspended in the air. The blade of his sword was only a few centimeters away from Chu Hen's throat, but he could not move the sword forward. Sun Yi was both shocked and angry. That's it. The corners of Chu Hen's mouth curled up slightly. His eyelids lifted, and his arms slightly pulled to the left. Sun Yi was directly pulled over by an irresistible and overbearing force. Not good. Sun Yi was greatly shocked. He hurriedly released the hand that was holding the sword hilt. But it was also at this moment that Chu Hen flipped over and leaped above Sun Yi. With a somersault in the air, a heavy kick landed solidly on Sun Yi's back. Bang! Bang! The heavy muffled sound, along with the shaking of the ground, was less than half a second apart. Under numerous pairs of shocked gazes, Chu Hen directly stomped Sun Yi's entire body into the platform beneath him. Rubble exploded, and the platform exploded. A circle of mighty aftershocks swept out. Countless deep cracks instantly covered the entire high platform. In the rapidly collapsing pit, Sun Yi was lying at Chu Hen's feet like a crippled dog. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, and his facial features were distorted. Blood continuously flowed from his mouth. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, a wave of air rose to the sky. Chapter 1374. Bang! The rubble exploded and cracks opened. Along with the collapse of the entire platform, the hearts of everyone present trembled faintly. In an instant, there was a deathly silence both inside and outside the canyon, and dense disbelief surged on everyone's faces. One move. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, things happened too quickly, and no one could keep up with the rhythm at all. Sun Yi, the #1 disciple of ruling sword sect, a genius on the stellar list, and a genuine Saint King Realm Master, was now trampled under Chu Hen's feet like a dead dog. Blood continuously flowed from his mouth and nose as he lay on the rubble, unable to move. The powerful and fierce sword momentum he had just displayed had instantly weakened to the extreme. My God, this guy? Everyone's eyes widened. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have imagined that Chu Hen was actually this strong. He Yin and Yang Su, who were about to follow behind Sun Yi, immediately stopped in their tracks. It was like a bridge that had collapsed. The shocking scene was like a torrent, assaulting their visual nerves. Although they all knew that Sun Yi was not Chu Hen's opponent, no one could have imagined that Sun Yi could not even withstand a single blow. In fact, it wasn't even a complete move. It was just a simple and direct heavy blow. Buzz, a wave of low and deep vibrations swept out. Chu Hen was imposing without being angry, and he fully displayed the bearing of a king. He didn't spare a glance at Sun Yi beneath his feet, and his deep and serene eyes that were like the boundless universe directly swept towards Chun Lu, who stood in the sky. Even in the face of the endless pressure of the 3 words War God Palace, Chu Hen still stood straight like a spear. The crushing power of Yang Su caused the atmosphere to become extremely tense. But at this moment, no one dared to step forward. Everyone's eyes were focused on the 2 people facing each other in the sky. One was like the sun in the sky, shining brilliantly. The other was like a star in the middle of the night, flickering in all directions. Chun Lu's eyes narrowed slightly as the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Hey, you've passed. You're qualified for me to personally take action. Before he finished speaking, the Lady Killer Bird circling in the sky let out an unusually ear-piercing cry. The sharp melody was extremely penetrating, and it was like an invisible arrow that penetrated deep into the minds of everyone present. Chu Hen's face darkened slightly. He raised his hand and launched a soft palm energy towards Yi Yao, who was not far away. Retreat. Yi Yao was startled. Without any hesitation, she borrowed the strength of Chu Hen's palm to rush out together with Noni, the yin-yang beast. Crack! A series of cold and sharp noises burst out. The moment the 3 shadows left the ground, sharp thorns glowing with red light shot out from the ground. For example, there were wooden stakes scattered all over the ground. Each of them had a terrifying penetrative power. Low and hurried screams sounded from the rubble. Under countless trembling gazes, Sun Yi, who had fallen on the platform, was pierced by numerous sharp thorns, leaving not a single part of his body unscathed. Senior Brother Seni. The expressions of the ruling sword gate disciples changed drastically. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Yang Su, He Yin, Qing Yin, Flower Snake, and the others all paled. Sun Yi died just like that? It was terrifying to be so careless and direct. Everyone from the ruling sword gate felt like the sky was about to turn dark. Their minds were blank. Chen Lu seemed to have done it unintentionally, but also seemed to have done it on purpose. It was as if in his eyes, Sun Ye's death was as insignificant as stepping on an ant. The ruling sword gate disciples, who were close to despair, dared not voice their anger at Chen Lu's actions. They were afraid of the war god palace. They didn't even dare to say, "Damn it." Apart from glaring at them with bloodshot eyes, gnashing their teeth, and swallowing their anger, there was nothing they could do. "Your reaction isn't bad," Chen Lu said indifferently. "Humph." Chu Hen's pupils trembled faintly. With a low, strange hum, his eyes flickered with purple light. Hum! An icy aura spread out in the void. In the next second, a purple flaming cyclone appeared out of nowhere and swept toward Chen Lu and Yuan Yi with the force of a prairie fire. The counterattack that originated from Chu Hen was similarly straightforward and efficient. The evil flames were like a tide, covering the sky and covering the earth. Within them, there were also countless bolts of purple lightning that interweaved like wild pythons. In the blink of an eye, the incomparably violent purple lightning storm directly enveloped the two, drowning them in an incomparably spectacular manner. But in the next instant, with a loud bang, the nebula exploded. Waves of air soared into the sky, and the purple storm was forcibly torn apart from the middle. A huge force surged in all directions, and the two returned to everyone's sight unscathed. This, as expected of the war god's slaughter. His strength is really powerful. The battle should be over soon. That's natural. No matter how monstrous a rising star is, he is still far from the 5 Saint Kings of the War God Palace. The 5 Saint Kings of the War God Palace. For the people of the world, he was like a monument that they could only look up to. While everyone was shocked by the strength of Chen Lu's divine might, they also seemed to see Chu Hen's following fate, which was likely to be even more miserable than Sun Ye's. "Huh!" A vicious sneer appeared on the gloomy face of Yuan Yi. He looked coldly at Chu Hen and said, "Prepare to receive the most brutal revenge. Starting from you, none of those martial ancestor bastards can escape." A defeated opponent dares to speak so boldly. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, and a violent divine thunder palm erupted from his hand. Crack! A sharp and rapid roar of thunder and lightning pierced through the sky, and a condensed beam of lightning tore through the sky, directly attacking Yuan Yi like an aurora. Sensing the destructive threat of this blow, Yuan Yi's expression changed slightly. He could clearly feel that after more than half a month, Chu Hen's strength had increased a lot. Humph! However, Yuan Yi had the powerful cultivation of the Third Order Saint King realm after all, and he, who was ranked 28th on the professional list, would not panic. The power of the celestial sacred body erupted. A mighty aura filled the sky, and a bright golden light surged out of his body. "I was too careless that day, but today I will teach you a lesson." At this moment, an obscure white light pattern floated between Chu Hen's eyebrows. Together with a strange spatial rhythm, the space around Yuan Yi quietly fell into an imperceptible state of distortion. Just as Yuan Yi was about to receive the purple beam of lightning head-on, a figure exuding a murderous aura suddenly intercepted him. A palm blade swaying with red light cut through the air like a shadow blade, directly cutting the beam of lightning in half. Bang! Starflowers bloomed like rain in the sky. A mighty and majestic aura raged like a gale. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Even Yuan Yi was stunned. He looked at Chen Lu in front of him in surprise. On the other hand, Chen Lu stared coldly at the young figure in front of him. Chapter 1375. So, he's also a Saint Rune Master. Chen Lu stared coldly at the young figure in front of him. His tone was slightly more surprised than before. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was shocked. What? Saint Rune Master? How could it be? Immediately after, Yuan Yi, who was behind Chen Lu, discovered that a series of runes that flickered with a faint, gentle light were floating beside him. Every rune was brewing a particularly restless and shocking power. Yuan Yi's face turned pale, and a chill ran down his spine. The other people sitting there were also secretly shocked. In the end, everyone still underestimated Chu Hen's methods. If Dust Slaughter hadn't intercepted the beam of lightning, the runes on the side would have been detonated by the power of lightning. Under the impact of multiple forces, Yuan Yi, who had been focused on the front, would have lost half his life at the very least. If I let you kill him so easily, where would I, Dust Slaughter, put my face? Chen Lu said calmly. Chu Hen raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and a faint, arrogant smile appeared on his face. Then I'm afraid you won't be able to keep your face. What? The hearts of everyone present were suddenly startled. As soon as Chu Hen's voice fell, the runes around Yuan Yi that had not cooled yet quietly fused together in the blink of an eye. Then they transformed into a small, gorgeous rune formation. The light shone like a corner of a constellation in the night sky. The space faintly trembled, and a bleak and cold airflow spread out. In the next moment, everyone's pupils shrank. They saw a ghost-like figure suddenly standing behind Yuan Yi whoosh. Rapid cyclones filled the sky and covered the earth. Everyone who witnessed this scene was even more shocked. What a profound displacement rune technique. Isn't it a little too fast? It's almost instantaneous. While everyone was shocked, Yuan Yi felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. An extremely dangerous signal surged from behind him. At this moment, he did not even have the courage to turn his head. The trembling in his heart made him almost unable to move. At the same time, a cold glint flashed in Dust Slaughter's eyes. With a whoosh, an afterimage swept past where he stood. Dust Slaughter set off a desolate aura and instantly flashed to the left of Chu Hen. You won't be able to keep your life, either. A cold smile blossomed on Dust Slaughter's face. He raised his right arm and swept it towards Chu Hen's head. A dense scarlet light revolved around Dust Slaughter's arm. His arm once again transformed into a sharp shadow blade that could cut through lightning. It was swift and fierce, like a blazing blade that could split everything in its path. Everyone's expressions changed again and again. Before he could recover from the shock of Chu Hen's displacement rune technique, Dust Murder had already used the most effective method to restrain him. If Chu Hen chose to attack Yuan, then Dust Slaughter's ferocious attack would also ferociously crash down. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Just when everyone thought that Chu Hen would definitely retreat and defend, something unexpected happened. Chu Hen's aura was not chaotic at all. He did not even turn his head. Bang! A violent explosion shook the air. Along with a powerful and vigorous wave of air, a battered figure covered in blood drew a straight line in the air. Then he smashed heavily into a rooftop in the canyon below. Bang! It smashed down solidly, and countless deep net-like cracks immediately appeared on the huge rooftop. The stone tiles on the rooftop shattered inch by inch and rapidly caved in. It's Yuan Yi. Everyone was shocked. Yuan Yi was covered in blood. The clothes on his back had been shredded by the fierce impact. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose. Similar to Sun Yi, he did not even have the ability to get up. There was no time to be shocked. Everyone's gazes immediately turned to the sky. In the end, Chu Hen did not let Yuan Yi go. This meant that Dust Slaughter was still standing next to him. The powerful energy ripples caused the surrounding space to distort unstably. The rapid airflow caused the wind to stack up in all directions. Everyone's pupils faintly narrowed, only to see that the two people in the sky were still standing in their original positions. Dust Slaughter's palm, which was as sharp as a plow blade, firmly stopped 10 centimeters away from Chu Hen's head. A palm surrounded by purple lightning arcs grabbed Dust Slaughter's arm like the claws of a ferocious beast. Countless people couldn't help but gasp at the sight of this. No one had expected that Chu Hen could block Dust Slaughter's attack and injure Yuan Yi at the same time. What kind of ability was this? I'm sorry. I've embarrassed you, Chu Hen said calmly. He slowly turned his head, his eyes flashing with demonic purple lightning. Dust Slaughter laughed. His laughter was especially sinister. I've embarrassed myself, and you've lost your life. It's not a loss at all. Oh, is that so? Chu Hen raised his brows and stared at Dust Slaughter's mocking gaze with a peerlessly domineering gaze. What if you lose your life as well? Every word was like a pearl, shocking the mind. Everyone in the valley below felt their blood boil restlessly as they listened to the two's conversation. It was like the gaze of a king, making them feel ashamed of their insignificance. In particular, Chu Hen's words truly made everyone feel a proud provocation. Ha, what interesting last words. Dust Slaughter's eyes shone with a cold light as soon as he finished speaking. At the same time, a thick cloud of blood-colored steam surged out of his body. He was like a wild beast that had opened its eyes and emitted a monstrous, murderous aura. The 5 fingers that grabbed Dust Slaughter's arm were forcefully shaken off. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly. Lightning gathered in his palm, and arcs of electricity overflowed like dragons. Chu Hen's left hand's 5 fingers closed together. Surrounded by lightning, it was like an aurora blade that directly stabbed at Dust Slaughter's throat. Facing Chu Hen's lightning-fast attacks, Dust Slaughter's eyes revealed endless viciousness. Fighting in close combat in front of me? You're thinking too much. With that, Dust Slaughter stretched out a palm. Extremely powerful true yuan rotated in his palm. Rumble, an explosion sounded like rocks cracking. The tip of Chu Hen's finger was like a sharp blade, directly piercing through the solid true yuan palm energy in Dust Slaughter's palm. The extremely penetrating force pierced forward. Dust Slaughter's palm clearly trembled. Although he had blocked Chu Hen's attack, a wisp of blood immediately spurted out from his palm. What? He could actually injure Dust Slaughter? Everyone present widened their eyes in disbelief. Just how much destructive power did Chu Hen's attack contain? Yang Su, He Yin, Qin Yin, and the others couldn't help but turn pale. If it had been any one of them, Chu Hen's lightning spike would have likely pierced through their palms and throats. You actually made me bleed. You're a little unforgivable. Dust Slaughter's expression was fierce. His 5 fingers came together and firmly grasped Chu Hen's palm. At the same time, he quickly raised his other hand above his head, and an abnormally sharp bone spike grew out of his palm. Whoosh! Dust Slaughter gripped the bone spike in his palm and pierced through the air, directly stabbing at Chu Hen's head. Die! Ruthless and murderous. The cold and vicious aura caused everyone's hearts to tremble. Chu Hen's pupils rapidly reflected the incoming bone spike. In the blink of an eye, Chu Hen's figure leaned to the left, and the incomparably sharp bone spike practically brushed past Chu Hen's right cheek. The sharp aura attached to the bone spike cut through the surface of his skin like a blade, and a faint line of blood seeped out from the corner of Chu Hen's face. Big Brother Chu Hen? Outside the battlefield, Yi Yao's pretty face changed slightly, revealing a look of worry. However, Chu Hen didn't care about the pain on his cheek at all. He didn't even frown. As he dodged the bone spike, he took advantage of the opportunity to break free from Dust Slaughter's grasp. Then, he spun aside, his back facing Dust Slaughter's right. Whoosh. A sharp sword hum rang out, and the formless Thorch blade appeared in Chu Hen's hand. Chu Hen gripped the sword in a reverse grip and directly stabbed it behind him, aiming for Dust Slaughter's right rib. Close combat focused on reaction and technique. Every move of the two could be said to be fatal. Under numerous shocked gazes, the formless Thorch blade in Chu Hen's hand passed under his armpit and then stabbed into Dust Slaughter's left rib. How could this be? Chapter 1376. Whoosh! The resonant hum of the sword shook everyone's heartstrings. Under everyone's astonished gazes, Chu Hen turned around and swung his sword in the opposite direction. The formless Emperor blade pierced Chun Lu's armpit and pierced Chun Lu's left rib. It was an unconventional move. The extraordinary and incomparably swift sword move made everyone gasp in surprise. However, what was surprising was that Chun Lu's face didn't show any signs of pain. He didn't even frown. Not a bad move, but it's a pity that it's useless. Everyone was shocked. Only then did they realize that Chu Hen's sword hadn't penetrated much into Chun Lu's left rib. Even the tip of the sword was outside. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Hen's eyes darkened. Then, he leaped into the air and immediately flashed away. At the same time, Dust Slaughter's left rib suddenly bulged. With a crack, a dozen or so sharp bone spikes suddenly broke through his flesh and skin, exposing themselves to the air. Whoa, what's that? Everyone was shocked. It was as if they had seen an unbearably terrifying scene. Every bone spike was as sharp as a blade. Moreover, they were completely blood-red and emitted a horrifying, bewitching sharpness. As Chu Hen dodged forward, he glanced behind him from the corner of his eye. He couldn't help but be moved when he saw the bone spikes that had directly burst out of Chun Lu's body. Hey, where's your fear? I urgently want to sense its existence. Chun Lu's face revealed a trace of a sinister smile. He leapt up and quickly rushed towards Chu Hen. As he moved, the red bone spike in Chun Lu's left palm rapidly grew and instantly turned into a spike that was 2 to 3 meters long. Chun Lu raised his arm, and the bone spike shot towards Chu Hen's back with endless penetrative sharpness. Sensing the danger behind him, Chu Hen didn't panic. He immediately turned around and swung the formless emperor blade horizontally, splitting the bone spike apart. In the next instant, Chun Lu, who had closed in, suddenly grabbed one of the bone spikes under his rib with his right hand. Then he exerted force in his arm and forcibly pulled the bone spike out his right rib. The especially horrifying scene made everyone feel extremely uncomfortable. Monster! Everyone present couldn't help but curse in their hearts. Crack! The bone spear that had been pulled out immediately turned into a deadly weapon in Chun Lu's hand. He held the bone spear and quickly stabbed it towards Chu Hen's chest. The two continuous attacks more or less caused Chu Hen to be a little unprepared. He didn't understand Dust Murder at all. He didn't know his opponent's moves at all. In a hurry, Chu Hen once again chose to retreat. Whoosh! Dust Slaughter's bone spear missed for the second time, but in the next second, he loosened his right hand's fingers and the bone spear shot out like an arrow from a bow. Chu Hen's pupils shrank, and he immediately placed the formless Thuarch blade in front of him. Ding! The sharp tip of the bone spur firmly hit the body of the formless emperor blade. Accompanied by a powerful shock wave, Chu Hen felt his arm go slightly numb. A fierce hidden force flowed into his body through the sword hilt, causing his blood and chi to become slightly restless. Dust Slaughter's aura rose again. He raised his hand to catch the bone spear that had bounced back and close the distance between them as fast as he could. The bone spear danced again, this time horizontally swinging towards Chu Hen's head. However, Chu Hen's reaction speed was also extremely fast. He ducked and dodged the opponent's attack. Dust Slaughter was also merciless. Every move was fatal, and every attack was aimed at Chu Hen's body's vital points. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the void, the two people's close combat could be said to be fast and fierce, and their attacks were swift and fierce. One attack and one defense could be said to be so tight that one didn't even have a chance to breathe. Dust Slaughter held the blood-colored bone spear with both hands as if he was brandishing a sharp thorn blade. Compared to the sharp sword in Chu Hen's hand, he clearly had an advantage. What a surprise! He actually dared to fight Dust Slaughter in close combat. Rumor has it that the god of war, Dust Slaughter himself, is a killing weapon. Now that I see it, it's not false at all. Who says it isn't? Every bone blade and thorn that grows out of his body is comparable to the sharpness of a divine artifact. Not to mention ordinary people, even we will die if we touch it. Especially in close-range combat. No one can get close to him. Why is he so terrifying? The limit of Dust Slaughter's bloodline. The sacred body of harsh bones. Sacred body of harsh bones. Everyone's expressions changed when they heard those words. This was an extremely rare sacred body bloodline. Those with this sacred body didn't have jade-white bones like ordinary people. Instead, their bones were red, as if they had been soaked in blood. Moreover, it contained extremely powerful bloodline power. This kind of power could allow their bones to break out of their bodies at any time and become fatal killing weapons. Anyone who possessed the sacred body of fierce bones was known as a natural killer. It was as if they were born for killing. There was a murderous aura in their bones that far surpassed ordinary people. God of War, Dust Slaughter. He became famous for killing. Dust Slaughter often slaughtered many sects and forces by himself. Moreover, the people who died at his hands were mostly killed by the bone blades that grew out of his body. One could imagine how terrifying he was. The continuous close combat made everyone present unavoidably break out in cold sweat for Chu Hen. If he was the slightest bit careless, Dust Slaughter's blood-like bone spikes would mercilessly slice through his opponent's throat. It was terrifying. Dust Slaughter's close combat is too strong. Chu Hen is completely suppressed. He won't be able to hold on for long. The sacred body of harsh bones is terrifying enough. More importantly, Dust Slaughter's realm cultivation is much higher than his opponent's. It seems that the martial ancestor realm is just a flash in the pan. Bang! Ding! Sparks flew everywhere. Sharp swords and bone blades collided one after another, causing a series of light and shadow to explode. Suddenly, the tendons and flesh around Dust Slaughter's spine swelled up like dragons. Kacha, accompanied by the sound of bones rubbing against each other, his spine shot out like a spear from a poisonous scorpion's tail. The blood-red spear quickly swayed and then dove down from above, attacking Chu Hen. Monster! He was simply a horrifying monster. Everyone looked at Dust Slaughter as if he was a complete freak. Bang! Chu Hen repeatedly brandished his longsword. A fierce and powerful force came crashing down, and the true essence covering the sword shattered like a bubble. At the same time, the bone spurs in Chen Lu's palm came stabbing out from the left and right. Let's see how long you can last. As soon as his opponent finished speaking, a hint of fear flashed through Chu Hen's eyes. He brandished the sword in his hand and stabbed forward. Everyone below was startled. No, the sword is too short. It can't hit Dust Slaughter. Even if the sword Chi can reach it, its power can't compare to Dust Slaughter's. Looks like he's starting to get anxious. He's planning on fighting with his life. Fighting with his life? Is that possible? Every inch of Dust Slaughter's body can be said to be made up of bones. Even ordinary divine weapons can't hurt him. Whoosh! However, at this moment, the black rune sword in Chu Hen's hand suddenly flowed with countless black rune lights in the shape of light vines. The vines flickered and intersected like tassels, swimming around the sword. In an instant, the body of the black rune longsword showed an illusory distortion. Following that, the body of the sword rapidly lengthened. The sharp edge of the longsword surged out, and the longsword immediately turned into a cold and threatening dragon's pine frost spear. What? Everyone's eyes widened, and thick disbelief surged into their eyes. The weapon changed form? How can this be? Chapter 1377. How is this possible? The weapon actually changed its form? A steady and piercingly cold aura surged out. Looking at the cold spear that was instantly transformed from a black rune longsword, everyone's faces were filled with astonishment. Roar! As soon as the spear appeared, a ferocious creature's howl swept through the sky. The wind and clouds in the sky surged and waves of air surged. A ferocious and domineering ancient lizard dragon with a pair of wings on its back appeared behind Chu Hen. It was like a summoned creature, displaying its supreme, ferocious might. Bang! In the next moment, the cold spear that was covered in black runes shot down and struck Chen Lu's chest with the might of the army destroyer. A deafening sound reverberated and the aftermath surged. The cold spear's might could destroy 3 armies. The violent impact that was comparable to a mountain was concentrated on Chen Lu's body. The latter's body shook violently, and the bone spear in his hand was forcefully sent flying before it could even touch Chu Hen. As he flew backwards, everyone could clearly see Chen Lu's chest rapidly cave in, and the outline of his broken bones could be vaguely seen. Oh my God! Everyone inside and outside the canyon frowned. Their faces were filled with fear. How terrifying was the power of Chu Hen's attack? What was even more shocking was the instantaneous change of the weapon in his hand. What weapon is that? Although its form has changed, its aura hasn't. Formless. Imperial blade. A trembling voice came from the crowd. What? The formless Imperial blade that's ranked 16th on the divine weapon ranking? Really? It's absolutely true. Back then, I was in the formless sky tomb and saw Chu Hen seize the formless Imperial blade with my own eyes. Moreover, in the process of seizing the formless Imperial blade, Lei Yuan and the others from the Thunderbolt Sacred Clan died in his hands. He's right. I was also in the formless sky tomb at that time. Whoosh! In an instant, the crowd burst into an uproar. Even Firmament Pavilion's Yang Su, Profound Sun Palace's Hien, and the others paled. Just how many geniuses on the Wind Cloud list did Chu Hen kill? Isn't he too ruthless? Damn thing. Yang Su clenched his fists tightly. His heart was filled with both hatred and trepidation. They had to admit that Chu Hen's existence was a great threat to them. Even to the entire profound Yang Palace and the heaven-condensing pavilion, he was a threat that could not be ignored. If he was allowed to continue growing, the consequences would be unimaginable. Don't worry, Hien said gloomily. He definitely won't live past today. Yang Su nodded with a fierce look on his face. A powerful chi flow charged at Dust Murderer like a pillar of wind. Dust Murderer's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. What a formless Emperor blade. But if you think you can defeat me like this, then you're gravely mistaken. Crack. The sound of bones rubbing against each other sounded like beans rolling in a bamboo tube. Dust Slaughter's face was hideous, and his sunken chest suddenly bulged out. His bones seemed to be moving, and his skin and flesh bulged. It was extremely uncomfortable to look at. Rip. Then, blood-red bone spikes burst out of Dust Slaughter's chest one after another. The spikes were as sharp as sea urchins, terrifying and dangerous. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, and he subconsciously tightened his grip on his spear. What a disgusting thing. Dust Slaughter sneered. At the same time, dozens of bony spikes burst out of his left rib. Covered in thorns and blades, Dust Slaughter had transformed into a terrifying monster that looked neither human nor ghost. I live for slaughter. You're just fish on my chopping block. A monstrous, murderous aura surged out of Dust Slaughter's body. Blood-red steam revolved around his body like a storm whirlpool. Dust Slaughter's speed exploded after he finished speaking, and he charged at Chu Hen with thousands of bony spikes in hand. Oomph! Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and the black dragon's pine frost spear in his hand blossomed with a myriad of extravagance. The ancient runes on the spear flickered, and at the same time, countless violent purple arcs of lightning swam up. The spear's momentum was shocking, and it was like a dragon. Dust Slaughter's entire body was covered in bony spikes, and he was like a life-reaping weapon. However, Chu Hen, who was holding the spear, was clearly much calmer than before. Formless the Archblade. It was shapeless and formless, and it had myriad forms. It had no fixed form, and it could change into myriad forms according to its master's will. Compared to a sharp sword, a spear was slightly weaker in terms of agility, but in close combat, it was an inch longer, an inch stronger. Especially when facing a monster like Dust Slaughter, whose entire body was a weapon, distance control was especially important. Bang! Boom! Dust Slaughter's attacks were swift and fierce, and every move was aimed at vital points. The momentum of Chu Hen's spear was like a storm. The dazzling spear radiance was like a storm that stirred up the heavens. Facing Chan Lu's crazy harvesting and slashing, not only did he not fall into the slightest disadvantage, he instead performed exceptionally well in both offense and defense. Without a doubt, the surprising appearance of Formless the Archblade caused everyone's hearts to tremble again. If an ordinary divine weapon was unable to harm Dust Slaughter, then Formless the Archblade caused everyone to be a bit more doubtful. He actually obtained Formless the Archblade. No wonder the Lingyun sect lost so miserably. Shoo! Lower your voice. Yuan E is still breathing. I'm just saying, although the decline and fall of the Lingyun sect had become an irreversible trend, just the fact that Yuan Yi had come with dust slaughter was enough to make everyone fearful. The prestige of the War God Palace was enough to support the other party. At this moment, Yuan Yi was still lying miserably in a pile of rubble. It was hard to determine how serious his injuries were, but from his incomparably gloomy eyes, one could see how much resentment and hatred he had in his heart. You won't live, and those bastards from the martial sect, I will torture them to death one by one. On the side of Huanyu Palace, Flower Snake's expression was incomparably complicated. She clearly remembered that back in the North Chuan ice region, Chu Hen's cultivation was far less powerful than it was now. Looking at Sun Yi, who had been dead for a long time and was badly mutilated, she felt that his death was really vexing. With Sun Ye's death, the ruling Sword Gate's disciples all mourned. In particular, Sun Yi did not die at Chu Hen's hands. The final fatal blow was delivered by Chun Lu. The other disciples of the ruling Sword Gate did not know what to do next. They could not leave. They could not stay. They did not even know whether Chu Hen or Chun Lu was the real target of hatred. But no matter which side it was, with just a few of them, there was no need to talk about revenge. The spear rained down, and 1,000 bones were like thorns. Boom! It was another incomparably fierce head-on collision. The incomparably sharp bone spurs directly pierced through the piercingly cold spear light. Together with the venomous scorpion stinger that grew out of Chun Lu's spine, they swung down, stabbing towards Chu Hen's vitals. Facing another round of attacks, Chu Hen swept his cold spear, and a solid ancient lizard dragon phantom drilled out of the spear light. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, roaring as it charged out. Child's play. Chun Lu revealed a look of disdain. The bone spurs and the venomous scorpion stinger in his palms both erupted with a rich scarlet light. The powerful attack directly pierced through the lizard dragon phantom and tore it to pieces. At this moment, Chu Hen tapped the air with the tip of his foot and somersaulted in the air, dodging the bone spurs. At the same time, he immediately flashed over Chun Lu's head and behind him. In the next instant, Chu Hen directly swooped down towards Chun Lu's back. Sizzle! A series of incomparably berserk purple lightning quickly twined around the long spear. At the same time, the corners of Chu Hen's eyes slightly trembled. His two palms that were holding the long spear condensed, and after the purple lightning, countless dark green lightning arcs once again swam out. Green flames were burning amidst the relatively cold electric arcs. It was very strange. Is that the Netherfire Heavenly Lightning? It can't be wrong. It's definitely the Thunder Saint Clan's Thunder Abyss's Netherfire Heavenly Lightning. This guy, among the people present, there was no lack of people who had gone to the Formless Sky Tomb. During the battle between Chu Hen and Thunder Abyss, they had personally witnessed the fierce battle between the Black Kshetra Divine Lightning and the Netherfire Heavenly Lightning. Now, with a glance, they could determine that the dark green lightning was a divine item unique to Thunder Abyss. Everyone knew that the Underworld Fire Heavenly Lightning was created by fusing Thunder Abyss's bloodline with the 1,000-year Underworld Fire of the Shadow Abyss. It had the lethality of lightning and the burning power of Underworld Fire. Now, Thunder Abyss was long dead, and even the divine item he was so proud of had been snatched away. Everyone couldn't help but feel a little sad. Crack! Under countless astonished gazes, the purple-black Kshetra, Divine Lightning, and the green Netherfire, Heavenly Lightning, were like two intertwining lightning pythons, quickly wrapping around the spear. The spear light rapidly expanded, instantly turning into a lightning halberd that was more than 10 meters long. Under the rain of lightning and fire, Chun Lu, who hadn't had time to turn around, directly faced his back to Chu Hen. A cold glint flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. This spear was like the lightning that pierced through the chaotic world. It was unstoppable. Even if your entire body is covered in armor, it'll still be difficult for you to withstand my lightning strike. Break! Everyone's pupils shrank to the size of needles. The dazzling lightning bloomed like a dazzling radiance, illuminating the sky. Chapter 1378. Clang, light blossomed in the sky, and arcs of lightning intersected. The two types of lightning that covered the cold spear interwove like pythons. For example, the thunder god spike that pierced through the chaotic world pierced into Dust Murderer's back with unstoppable force. The starry rain of fire splashed everywhere, and a gap was torn in Dust Murderer's impenetrable defense. The thunder god spike, which could pierce through everything, exploded with a tremendous force. It pierced through Dust Murderer's bones and internal organs. Under countless shocked gazes, the bones on Dust Slaughter's back shattered one after another. Wherever the blade of the spear passed, cracks would rapidly open up. Blood mixed with minced flesh flew everywhere. Unusual red bone fragments danced like crystal shards. Hiss! Heavens! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The scene in front of them made their blood run cold, and their scalps go numb. Ruthless. The power of Chu Hen's spear couldn't be more ruthless. Yang Su, Hien, Qing Yin, Flower Snake, and the others felt a chill run down their spines. Their brows furrowed like two dead silkworms. One had to know that this person was Dust Murderer, one of the Palace of War God's 5 Saint Kings. He was called the Killing God of War and ranked 19th on the Wind Cloud list. Just how strong is this person? Huan Yu Palace's Qing Yin bit her lip and muttered. On the other side, Yi Yao's face relaxed a little. Previously, she was worried if Chu Hen could deal with Dust Murderer's attack. Now, she was much more relaxed. ZZZT. The cold spear, flickering with lightning, emitted a destructive aura. It was like a long nail that firmly pinned Dust Murderer in the air. Dust Murderer couldn't even budge. Dust Murderer's body, which was covered in bone spikes, trembled incessantly. Ha! I almost died. Then, the corners of Dust Murderer's mouth drew back, and he actually smiled. His white teeth and cold smile were like a demon's, causing people's hearts to palpitate inexplicably. Screech. At the same time, the Lady Killerbird, circling in the sky, let out an ear-piercing screech. An indescribable fear surged in everyone's hearts. Yi Yao's expression changed slightly, and her heart, which had just relaxed a little, tensed up. It's been a very long time since someone's been able to injure me. Ha ha! Dust Slaughter roared with laughter. At the same time, the blood vessels and tendons on his face, forehead, and all over his body bulged in unison. His gaze became even more ruthless and ferocious, and a terrifying, murderous aura was like lava that was rapidly brewing in a volcano. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly. Then he discovered that the spear in his hand was firmly stuck in his opponent's back. He. Dust Slaughter laughed maniacally. What a wondrous pain. I'm willing to use all my strength to kill you. Kill. The two cold and fierce words were like a sharp knife, stabbing into everyone's eardrums. Boom! In the next moment, a monstrous, evil, and murderous aura poured out of Dust Slaughter's body. The vast, blood-colored steam was like a river that had broken through a dam. Chu Hen's pupils constricted. He saw the muscles on Dust Slaughter's back move rapidly. In that instant, red bone spikes shot out his body. The bone spikes extended extremely quickly, instantly arriving in front of Chu Hen. He didn't have time to pull out the dragon's pine spear formed by the formless Thorch blade from Dust Slaughter's back. The sharp bone spikes had already rushed in front of him. In this moment, Chu Hen could only let go of the formless Thorch blade and quickly glide backwards. However, this time, the bone spikes that grew out of Dust Slaughter's body didn't stop. Instead, they chased after Chu Hen as they traversed through the sky. Dust Slaughter's body trembled, and the smile on his face became more and more sinister. I'll let you see what the true sadistic killing technique is. Screech. The Lady Slayer in the sky became increasingly excited. Its piercing screech echoed in all directions and spread for thousands of kilometers. Crack. Following this, sharp bone spikes also grew out of Dust Slaughter's back and below his ribs. A series of ice-cold bone spikes burst out of his body, accompanied by a sudden and majestic evil chi. Bloody death dance. Dust Slaughter shouted fiercely. His voice was like thunder. Crack! Hiss! In that instant, countless bone spikes that emitted a powerful, murderous aura burst forth one after another. They were like branches that rapidly separated from tree trunks. Each branch gave birth to countless more branches. One became 10, and 10 became 100. The bone spikes that were constantly extending spread out like branches and leaves, covering the sky and covering the earth in all directions. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The rapidly diverging bone spurs transformed into incomparably sharp blades, unceasingly attacking Chu Hen from top, bottom, left, and right. Chu Hen continuously dodged and dodged, his eyes filled with a trace of coldness. The attacking bone spikes extended extremely quickly, and their penetrative power was extremely strong. The range that Chu Hen could move became smaller and smaller. Under the continuous attacks of the countless branching bone spikes, Chu Hen's position of movement was constantly inching closer to the ground. Everyone inside and outside the canyon was alarmed. They all retreated to a relatively safe area. Soon, Chu Hen was forced to the ground. Following that, the bone spikes and thorns that covered the sky and covered the earth came crashing down. Whoosh! 1 second after Chu Hen dodged, dozens of bone spikes stabbed deep into the ground where he had just been. The terrifying penetrative power caused rocks to shatter and the earth to split apart. In the blink of an eye, a particularly spectacular scene appeared in front of everyone. Dense bone spikes crisscrossed each other like an incomparably huge blood-colored bird's nest. A dense bloody aura filled the sky and earth. At the top of the bird's nest, Dust Slaughter, who was covered in bone spikes, looked like a monster from hell. He had used every bone in his body to create a terrifying giant cage. At this moment, Chu Hen was like a flea in a giant bird's nest. Although his reactions were especially fast, the increasingly dense bone spikes constantly sealed off his range of movement. This is a move that can kill tens of thousands of people in one go. How fortunate and proud you should be to use it on yourself today. Ha ha ha. Dust Slaughter's laughter was extremely terrifying. Bloody Death Dance. It was a beautiful and dangerous name. At this moment, everyone finally knew how the sects and forces that had been destroyed by Dust Slaughter had fallen. They seemed to see the despair in the eyes of those sects and forces in this blood-colored bird's nest. They were killed by bone spikes amidst helplessness and fear. Oh my God, this guy is simply a monster. Hee, who says otherwise? Bang, bang, bang. The bone spikes that kept stabbing into the ground were like sharp spears and arrows. The huge blood-colored bird's nest quickly covered more than half the space in the canyon. Ancient buildings were pierced from top to bottom by extremely long bone spikes, but they still stood firmly. Chu Hen was getting further and further away from Dust Slaughter. Moreover, there were countless crisscrossing bone spikes between them. It was extremely difficult to attack Dust Slaughter. In everyone's opinion, Chu Hen had already fallen into an irreversible dead end. Soon, the space around Chu Hen had shrunk to less than the size of a room. He fused with the earth, accompanied by Dust Slaughter's deranged laughter. Thousands of blood-colored bone spikes pierced down from all directions from different angles. Every bone spike was abnormally sharp and exuded the threat of destruction. Chu Hen's pupils rapidly shrank. Bang! In the next instant, the ground cracked and rocks exploded. Along with a rapidly expanding giant pit, Chu Hen was like a weak butterfly, directly embedded into the ground by countless bone spikes. The ground collapsed inch by inch, and the terrifying bone spikes pierced dozens of meters deep. It was like a terrible seal that could never be broken. It firmly nailed Chu Hen into the ground. Big Brother Chu Hen? Yi Yao's expression changed greatly, and her small face instantly turned as white as a sheet. Inyang Beast Noni also let out a low whimper. At the same time, everyone else was terrified by the scene in front of them. Dust Slaughter's methods were even more terrifying than the rumors said. However, this ending was also within everyone's expectations. They didn't think there was anything wrong with it. He was a rising star of the martial sect, and one of the 5 saint kings of the war god palace. There was no comparison. Although there was an interlude, the ending is still set. Profound Sun Palace's Hyan's expression relaxed slightly, and his eyes meaningfully glanced at heaven-gathering pavilion's Yangsu. The latter also smiled disdainfully. What a pity. With such monstrous talent, he would definitely be in the top 10 of the wind cloud list in the future. It was a pity, but it was more of a contented feeling. Chapter 1379. Buzz. The world lost its color, and the wind was cold. In the huge canyon, everyone's faces were filled with shock that came from the depths of their hearts. Looking at the huge, blood-colored bird's nest that shrouded the sky, everyone's heart trembled. Bloody death, heavenly dance. This was a killing move that could kill tens of thousands of people, and even destroy a sect. Witnessing it with their own eyes was even more impactful than the rumors. This was especially the case when they saw Chu Hen, who was deeply embedded into the ground by countless bone spikes. Everyone could not help but become increasingly aware. The War God Palace was indeed an undefeatable existence. Profound Yang Palace and even Heaven Pavilion side were already secretly delighted. Chu Hen's death was no less than getting rid of a huge problem for them. A bunch of people who take pleasure in other people's misfortune. On Huan Yuhal's side, Flower Snake coldly glanced at Yang Su, Hien, and the others with a disdainful expression. Flower Snake was one of the first to come into contact with Chu Hen. To be honest, after witnessing the change in Bei Chuan Ice Domain, Flower Snake felt more pity than the others. Of course, it was only a bit of pity. Chu Hen's defeat was not a bad thing for Huan Yuhal. I've been waiting for this day. It's a pity that I can't personally kill you to avenge my brother. 10-feathered demon blade Li Yinxing and fatal elegance Lu Wuyue were both moved. Their faces were filled with more complacent sneers than the others. All of a sudden, the ground shook. Just at this time, rumble. An incomparably heavy muffled sound rang out. The area where Chu Hen was embedded into the ground suddenly and rapidly burst open. What? Everyone's hearts trembled. Chu Hen did not die. One had to know that Shan Lu's venomous bone sacred physique was always successful, and its destructive power was comparable to a divine weapon. Chu Hen had just been hit by hundreds of bone spikes. Even if he did not die, he would have lost half his life. How could he still release such a powerful aura? Every inch of rubble exploded into powder, and a purple aurora blossomed wantonly. For example, the stars that had exploded in the ground. Roar! Along with the roar that resounded in all directions, a powerful and mighty shockwave swept out, shattering bone spikes one after another. It was like a withered tree branch being attacked by gravity. Immediately after, sharp dragon claws broke through the ground, and under the shocked gazes of countless people present, a giant dragon skeleton without flesh, scales, or armor rose up, releasing a monstrous, ferocious aura. This is... Dragon skeleton? Everyone frowned deeply, their faces filled with shock. This ferocious creature, which was only left with its skeleton, had the aura of a true dragon, especially the 2 balls of flame-shaped light in its eye sockets, which showed the supreme divine might of an ancient ferocious creature. Where did this guy get the true dragon skeleton from? On one side, there was a blood-red bird's nest made of bone spurs, and on the other side, there was a real dragon skeleton. For example, the tyrannical dragon bones of the zombies broke through the bone spikes one after another with the momentum of tearing apart the sky net, breaking through the layers of shackles and getting into the predicament. In the crater of rubble under the dragon skeleton, Chu Hen's figure was an incongruous contrast with the scene before him. From afar, several obvious wounds could be seen on Chu Hen's body, but his aura was still fierce. Violent purple lightning circled around his body, and the might that flashed in his eyes was like the flames in the dragon skeleton's eye sockets. Under the tyrannical impact of the giant dragon skeleton, a hole was quickly broken through the blood-red bird's nest. You're really surprising me more and more. Thick murderous intent appeared on Dust Slaughter's face. He was completely determined to kill Chu Hen. But you're dreaming if you think you can break through my bloody death heavenly dance with just this thing. Heavenly dance, slaughter. As soon as Dust Slaughter finished speaking, an ice-cold, destructive aura surged from the ground where Chu Hen was. Chu Hen's eyes darkened, and without a word, he quickly leaped off the ground. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, countless sharp spikes surged out of the ground. The scarlet spikes were like the bone spikes that came out of Dust Slaughter's body. They were divided into 10, then 100. They spread like a three-dimensional spiderweb. At the same time, the bone spikes that were broken by the giant dragon skeleton grew back like a gecko's broken tail. Bone spikes attacked from all directions, and Chu Hen dodged and retreated between the cracks. Because the attack of the bone spikes was too concentrated, Chu Hen flashed to the bottom of the dragon's head. The dragon's two skeletal claws, one on the left and one on the right, held Chu Hen in the middle, blocking the attack of the bone spikes. However, the blood-colored bone spurs that were constantly pressing down could be said to be extremely sturdy. They were like long poles that pierced through the earth and the sky, respectively passing through the various cracks on the giant dragon's skeleton before firmly locking it in place. Roar! The dragon skeleton's ferocious might decreased after being stuck by countless sharp and slender bone spikes. Its enormous body became a disadvantage, and it couldn't exert any strength. The blood cage trapped a giant beast. Seeing the increasingly shocking scene before them, everyone's understanding of Dust Slaughter was refreshed. This person was too terrifying. Pointless resistance. You can end it now. Dust Slaughter's words were like a death sentence. With that, Dust Slaughter raised his spike-covered hands and extended them towards the giant dragon skeleton. Crack! Countless spikes began to pass through the cracks in the dragon's claws and attack Chu Hen. Hee, as I said before, I'll lose face, and you'll lose your life. Hum. A heart-palpitating aura of death enveloped the area. The dense bone spikes grew even faster, sweeping up endless murderous intent as they descended. Noni, hurry up and help Brother Chu Hen. At the same time, Yao had already flown out with Noni, the yin-yang beast, towards the giant blood-red bird nest. However, to everyone else, she was just adding to her life. However, just as the fatal bone spikes were about to pierce through the dragon's claws, an enormous shockwave suddenly erupted like a tsunami. Rumble! The mountains and rivers changed, and huge waves rose to the sky. An enormous pillar of light shot into the sky without any warning from the center of the blood-red bird nest. Bang! Bang! The terrifying power of an earth-shattering meteor suddenly exploded. The ground cracked, rocks turned to dust, and red bone spikes broke one after another, exploding into countless pieces. What's going on? Everyone was shocked. The people from Heaven Gathering Pavilion, Profound Yang Palace, Huanyu Hall, Ruling Sword Gate, and the other factions all widened their eyes. Their faces were filled with deep disbelief. In the center of the blood-red bird nest, power was like a tsunami. Runes and secret scrolls flashed, covering the sky and covering the earth. The incomparably chaotic storm of power was filled with thunder, flames, hurricanes, light, and a series of other complicated energies. Many powers intertwined together, and the destructive power that leaked out was extremely terrifying. Bang, bang, bang. Like breaking dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, the bone fragments that filled the sky were like shattered crystals, breaking layer by layer. The dense shackles of the heavens net collapsed in an instant, shattering into pieces. The mighty storm of power engulfed the entire canyon. One ancient building after another was swept to the ground, and one mountain slope after another suddenly collapsed. It's the power of runes. A cry of surprise came from the crowd. What? Pairs of eyes were still filled with shock. Under the interweaving runes that filled the sky, an extravagant rune array that spanned hundreds of feet suddenly appeared on the ground. It really is the rune technique, but how did he do it? Everyone knew that the more powerful the power of runes, the more time was needed to set them up. From the beginning until now, Chu Hen had been in a passive state. Not to mention setting up a rune array, he did not even have the chance to release a martial skill to counterattack. Moreover, the power of this rune array directly overturned the entire blood-red bird nest, and Chu Hin did not have the time to complete it all. The frantic and rapid power of runes swept up a hurricane. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the dazzling rune array that shook the heavens and the earth. In the storm of power that engulfed the 9 heavens, there was actually a figure with a strange appearance that seemed like a human, but not a beast. That is, the monster's body was like a tree trunk, but its limbs were like beast claws. Its eyes were filled with golden light, and its mouth was slightly opened, emitting a dark aura like an abyss. That could it be? What is it? Rune Beast. Chapter 1380. That. See, could it be a talisman beast? What? Talisman beast? Rumble. Heaven and earth lost its color as the 9 heavens shook. The extremely violent and monstrous shockwave directly overturned the ground, causing the entire blood-colored bird's nest to crumble. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the dazzling and luxurious talisman formation in the midst of the incomparably chaotic talisman energy storm was as mysterious as a constellation in the vast universe. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on the strange beast figure in the middle of the talisman formation. It had the body of a tree and the limbs of a ferocious beast. Although its body was not particularly huge, only about 7 to 8 meters tall, it gave off an inexplicable and mysterious aura. It was like an ancient creature that came from another dimension. The strength of the majestic Reiki energy that it emitted was extremely shocking. It's a talisman beast. There's no doubt about it, someone in the crowd exclaimed. What's a talisman beast? At the same time, someone expressed his puzzlement. It's a very ancient creature. It doesn't belong to the category of demon beast, nor does it belong to the category of evil devil. Then what is it? Don't tell me it's a human? If we really have to classify it, it should belong to the combination of plant and demon beast. According to the ancient records, the talisman beast existed in a very long time. It was a product of the same era as the ancient true dragon, Qilin, and many other divine beasts. The talisman beast is born by absorbing Reiki energy and can devour street tree. The most heaven-defying thing about it is that the talisman beast is a natural talisman master. It has an innate control over the rune energy. Didn't they say that the ancient creature, the talisman beast, was already extinct 10,000 years ago? Why is there another one here? I don't know. The appearance of a giant dragon skeleton was already shocking enough. However, the appearance of the talisman beast was earth-shattering. It was obvious that the dragon skeleton's rage was just to cover up the talisman beast's sneak attack. Rumble, a series of extremely violent and powerful runes, shook the heavens and the earth. The overturned blood-colored bird's nest directly exploded. Dust Slaughter, who had been caught off guard, had never expected Chu Hin to have such a trick up his sleeve. He had never expected an ancient rune beast to be hidden beneath him. The terrifyingly huge force was like an erupting mountain and river. The blood-colored bone spikes beneath Dust Slaughter instantly shattered. Chi waves spread across the sky, and the wind and clouds surged. All sorts of chaotic cyclones wreaked havoc in all directions. Roar! Without giving them too much time to be shocked, the dragon skeleton's claws parted, and then a figure with purple electric arcs streaked across the sky like an aurora. Formless Emperor Blade, Chu Hin shouted in a deep voice. Buzz! The dragon's pine spear that was still stuck in Chun Slaughter's back let out an impassioned hum. Then, with a whoosh, it left Chun Slaughter's back and flew towards Chu Hin, drawing a stream of light in the air. Chu Hin rapidly closed the distance between him and Dust Slaughter. The moment the dragon's pine spear fell into Chu Hin's hand, Chu Hin raised it high. Buzz, ancient and complicated black runes flickered on the spear's body. Then, the spear's shape rapidly changed. The heavy spear body rapidly widened and became blunt. As it approached Dust Slaughter, a 2-meter-wide, 4-meter-long hammer astonishingly appeared in Chu Hin's hand. The hammer's entire body was covered in dark red magma-like patterns, and it emitted rings of flame-shaped red light. Strands of electric arcs immediately covered the hammer's surroundings. A black shadow shrouded and pressed down. The wind was as fast as lightning, and the air was like an injection. The veins on Chu Hen's arms bulged. He raised the violent hammer in his hand and smashed it down at Dust Slaughter. "I'll return it to you," Chu Hen said sternly. His resolute face was filled with viciousness. Dust Slaughter's expression changed. His body was covered in blood-colored bone spurs, and he clearly couldn't react in time. In a hurry, his eyes darkened. He gritted his teeth, and the bone spurs on his body crisscrossed like the teeth of a man eating flour, forming a strange, rail-like armor. "You think you can break through my defense?" Bang! The moment he finished speaking, a shockwave that resembled a ring of stars surged in the air. An incomparably heavy sound reverberated for thousands of miles. The violent hammer in Chu Hen's hand smashed solidly into Dust Slaughter's body with the might of thunder. The moment the two collided, the hammer looked as if it had been tempered in magma. It was completely red. The blood-colored bone spurs in front of Dust Slaughter were the first to shatter. His pupils rapidly shrank to the size of needle tips. Boom! Then an extremely ferocious force surged down, fiercely invading Dust Slaughter's body and organs. Crack! The sound of bones breaking could be heard clearly. The violent hammer formed by the formless Imperial blade erupted with the power to destroy mountains and rivers. Dust Slaughter's body trembled, and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He had underestimated the power of the formless Imperial blade. He had also overestimated the defense of his bloodline boundary. The formless Imperial blade in Chu Hen's hands had fused with too many divine and sacred weapons. Its destructive power had already reached an immeasurable level. Blood spurted out of Dust Slaughter's mouth. He was like a bird that had been struck by a meteorite. He fell from the sky in extremely fast speed. At the same time, Chu Hen raised his arm and threw the violent hammer in his hand. Then, Chu Hen's gaze turned cold. He raised his palm through the air. Along with a huge, invisible spatial rhythm, the violent hammer's shape became sharp at a speed visible to the naked eye. Rings of air flowed down, and a black rune sword tore through the sky. It was like a meteor chasing after the moon as it chased after Dust Slaughter. The rapidly falling Dust Slaughter's expression changed dramatically. Never before seen fear and uneasiness appeared on his face. In the process of moving, the black rune sword constantly overflowed with strands of purple and green lightning. The two different colors of lightning intertwined with each other, once again emitting an irresistible, piercingly cold aura. Everyone's pupils shrank, and their faces turned deathly pale. Under countless people's shocked gazes, the aurora-like divine sword instantly caught up to Dust Slaughter and pierced his throat. The sword, flickering with two-colored lightning, directly pierced through the front and back of his throat. Suddenly, time seemed to slow down infinitely. Everyone's vision turned dark. Streams of blood danced in the sky. Dust Slaughter looked like he had been dragged down by a long nail. With a bang, he heavily smashed into the most magnificent meditation platform in the center of the canyon. The long sword deeply pierced into the stone floor. Cracks of various sizes spread out around Dustkill. The entire place was dead silent, but everyone's heart was trembling. Chapter 1381. Dust filled the air, and the world lost its color. The huge canyon fell into an unprecedented silence. Everyone present felt as if their eyes had fallen into endless darkness. Profound Yang Palace, Equal Firmament Pavilion, Huanyu Hall, Imperial Sword School, and the others all trembled. Their eyes were wide open, and their faces were filled with intense shock and disbelief. On the pilgrimage platform, a powerful wave of qi, mixed with countless deep cracks, swept out. Under countless shocked gazes, Chen Lu, one of the 5 sacred kings of the Palace of War God, had his throat pierced by a black rune sword. He was pinned to the platform. Am I dreaming? The trembling voice in the crowd was strangely powerless. No, even if it's a dream, this can't happen. It's fake. It must be fake. Unconcealable unease filled everyone's faces. One had to know that the person lying on the ground was a peak genius ranked 19th on the honor roll. How is this possible? Yang Su, Hien, Qing Yin, flower snake, and the others felt endless fear and wariness. Even Chen Lu had lost. If the fox mourned the death of the hare, then the beast would only feel fear when the tiger died. ZZZT. Two different colored arcs of lightning swayed on the blade as it pierced through Chen Lu's throat. Warm blood flowed out. Even so, Chen Lu wasn't dead yet. His spiky body trembled faintly, and his eyes were vicious. Although he couldn't make any sound, his lips moved slightly as if he was chanting some ancient incantation. Screech! Suddenly, the lady killer bird circling in the sky let out a shrill cry. Then it dove down like a bolt of lightning. As it flew toward Chen Lu, the lady killer bird glowed with illusory, blood-colored steam. A cold wind rose, and a cold current wreaked havoc. There seemed to be a mournful wail of 100 ghosts in everyone's ears. A spiral of blood-colored air began to churn on the ceremony platform. At this moment, Chen Lu actually smiled. He grinned like a demon. "It's the Fierce Bone Clan's reflection art," someone in the crowd exclaimed. "Reversal. That's right. It's said to be the most evil, forbidden technique of the Fierce Bone Clan. The Lady Killer Bird is an extremely evil product refined from all the wraiths that were killed before. The Lady Killer Bird was filled with the vengeful spirits of countless dead people. It was a spell created with the lives of countless people. The scalps of everyone present involuntarily turned numb as they looked at Chen Lu, whose aura was rapidly rising. However, right when the Lady Killer Bird arrived before Dust Slaughter and was about to fuse into his body, an afterimage that was swift like a bolt of lightning suddenly flashed by, and it was accompanied by a powerful and piercingly cold ferocious might that caused the blood-colored steam around Dust Slaughter to suddenly collapse and disintegrate. What? Everyone's expression changed. Everyone looked over and saw a majestic and domineering black and white demonic beast standing in the air, stepping on the flames formed by the yin and yang energies. In its mouth, between its sharp fangs, the Lady Killer Bird kept flapping its wings, struggling with all its might. It's that woman's yin-yang beast. But how can a yin-yang beast grow to such an extent? Before everyone could recover from their shock, the yin-yang beast, Noni's upper and lower jaws closed together. With a violent explosion, the Lady Killer Bird, which had no flesh or blood and only had bones, was directly blown to pieces on the spot, exploding into a mess of chi pattern fragments. Roar! The yin-yang beast roared at the sky, its momentum shaking the heavens. It fully displayed its domineering might as the sovereign of all beasts. The moment the Lady Killer Bird was destroyed, Chen Lu's sinister smile suddenly turned into dense hatred and resentment. On the other side, the cloud-soaring sex Yuan Yi's face was filled with despair. He didn't even have a last chance to turn the tables. Chen Lu's gaze was filled with resentment and unwillingness. He stared at the young figure standing proudly in the air. Chu Hen's expression was clearly indifferent. Even though he had many injuries on his body, his aura did not weaken at all. It was still as sharp as a divine sword that could pierce through the heavens. A muffled, low voice came from Chen Lu's throat. "I can't believe that I will die by your hands." With every word he spoke, his wounds would shake even more, causing blood to gush out faster. His voice was extremely hoarse and unbearable to listen to. Chen Lu laughed terrifyingly as blood flowed out of his mouth and nose. He glared at Chu Hen like a ferocious ghost. "This is only the beginning. You cannot leave this alive." Everyone felt a chill run down their spines. They felt chills run down their spines. However, Chu Hen's emotions did not seem to fluctuate at all. His eyes flashed as he replied indifferently, very ordinary last words. Chen Lu lay on the ground and clenched his fists tightly. He used all his strength to make one final sound. Bloody Death Sky Dance. Sky Dance. Crack. In an instant, sharp and sinister blood-colored bone spikes shot out of the ground beneath Chen Lu. However, these blood-colored bone spikes pierced through Chen Lu's body this time. The sharp thorns mercilessly pierced through various vital points on his body. When a blood-stained bone spike tore through his heart, Chen Lu's pupils shrank rapidly. Then his eyes quickly became slack. In the end, his life quietly dissipated like smoke. The surroundings were deathly silent. However, everyone's hearts were in turmoil. No one had expected that Chun Lu would end his final journey in such a manner. He did not choose to die at Chu Hen's hands. Instead, he died at the hands of the ultimate killing move that he was so proud of, Bloody Death Sky Dance. The move that had once taken the lives of countless people had finally been used to end himself. Was this like a kind of reincarnation? As he looked at Chun Lu, who had been pierced by countless blood-colored bone spikes, Chu Hen's eyes rippled slightly. Dust Slaughter's suicidal move had destroyed his true essence, Violet Palace and Saint Soul at the same time. This person was bloodthirsty and ruthless, but he had to admit that he had his own pride. War God Palace's 5 Saint Kings? Chu Hen narrowed his eyes, and a hint of malice appeared on his face. Chun Lu's death caused the other 4 factions to tremble. Yang Su, Hien, Qin Yin, Flower Snake, and the others were shocked, but they also felt uneasy. How could Chu Hen be so powerful? If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it. Even Chun Lu, one of the 5 Saint Kings of War God Palace, had been defeated. Furthermore, he had been defeated so miserably. The honor roll was refreshed once again. From Lu Minghong and Qin Shui, who were at the bottom, to Yang Zhongxiao of the 5 Elements clan, Lei Yuan of the Lightning clan, and even Yuan Yi of the Cloud-Soaring sect. Every step they took was like a hot knife through butter. This time, even Chun Lu, who was ranked 19th on the honor roll, had been defeated. It could be said to be a massacre. However, at this moment, a violent storm that swept through the sky once again appeared in the sky above the Grand Canyon. Wind surged, and waves of air filled the sky. The sky, which had been as bright as day just a second ago, immediately sank into darkness. Under the crowd's astonished gazes, a black vortex was slowly forming above the ceremony platform. The black whirlpool was deep and dark, and not a single speck of light could be seen. It was like a plain channel that had suddenly opened from another world. What's this? Everyone frowned at the same time, their faces solemn. What a powerful power of darkness! Someone exclaimed. There's only one person on the entire honor roll who possesses such a terrifying power of darkness. That person, everyone's hearts trembled like the expanding black whirlpool. All the light in the world seemed to be gradually swallowed up. Even the yin-yang beast, Noni, let out a low roar. Immediately after, dozens of powerful auras came from the black whirlpool. It can't be wrong. It's definitely him. Who is it? The wielder of the sacred darkness body. The peerless genius ranked 12th on the honor roll. The expressions of Yang Su, Hien, Qin Yin, and the others changed again and again. They frowned deeply and muttered in low voices, then spat out a few words with unusual caution. Chapter 1382. It can't be wrong. It's definitely him. The owner of the sacred body of darkness. The genius ranked 12th on the honor list. Buzz buzz. Sensing the monstrous dark aura emanating from the black nebula vortex storm, the expressions of everyone inside and outside the canyon changed. Their eyes were filled with fear and solemnity. The bloodline limit of the sacred body of darkness. There were not many people who possessed such a sacred body. There was only one person on the honor list who possessed such a powerful dark aura. Spirit Phoenix Valley. Xiao Yao Cheng. At this moment, Chu Hen's eyes became deep and cold as he stared at the vortex door that was surging with endless dark aura. Especially when he heard the 3 words Xiao Yao Cheng. He couldn't help but reveal a hint of coldness between his brows. A cold stream of air flowed out from Chu Hen's body. Hua! Following that, a black light that pierced through the heavens and earth poured down. Immediately, dozens of young figures with extraordinary appearances appeared from within the black whirlpool storm in front of countless pairs of eyes that were moved by the scene. Everyone's eyes narrowed as they clenched their fists. Under the formless aura that was like a storm, everyone let out a deep sigh that was not unexpected. It really is him. It's really lively here. Sorry to disturb everyone. The group from Spirit Phoenix Valley raised a majestic aura and stood proudly in the air above the most magnificent ascension altar in the middle of the valley. A slender, feminine-looking young man was the first to land on the platform. Su Li, Yang Su, Yin, Qing Yin, and the rest frowned. They all recognized this feminine-looking young man. His name was Su Li, a top genius of Spirit Phoenix Valley and a monstrous figure ranked 27th on the honor list. However, almost everyone's gaze was focused on another person. He was handsome and his face was like jade. He was dressed in a gorgeous black robe with dark gold edges. His eyes were calm, and there seemed to be a faint light in them, giving off a domineering aura like a sharp blade in the night. No matter when it was always so breathtaking and extraordinary. Even Chen Lu from the War God Palace could not compare to this person's unparalleled aura. Hee, it seems like we came at the right time. Su Li smiled with great interest. Then, he looked at the ancient cauldron in the center of the pilgrimage platform, which was surrounded by many towering pillars. Without any hesitation, Su Li raised his hand and created storm. Bang! A heavy muffled sound rang out, and an astonishing amount of power struck the giant cauldron. In an instant, a strange, ancient, dreamy pattern spread out from the cauldron's body. Subsequently, there was another bang. Sound, along with a circle of vast and mighty air ripples. One could see that the ancient cauldron that was used to suppress the rooftop of the canyon had suddenly cracked. Like a shattered rock, it directly exploded into countless fragments. Buzz, under the shroud of the rapid cyclones, a square key with brilliant lights and luxurious patterns gradually appeared in the air. Looking at the key that was as bright as a star, everyone was stunned. Only then did everyone remember the original purpose of gathering here today. Huan Yu Hall, Imperial Sword Gate, Profound Sun Palace, even Heaven Pavilion, and various other factions had all come for the key that was hidden here. However, the series of changes that happened along the way could be said to be earth-shattering. The continuous shock and impact caused everyone to forget the reason why they were here. It's really still here? Clearly, Su Li was also surprised. He bent his 5 fingers, and with a rapid reverse suction force, the key immediately drew a ray of light in mid-air, then steadily fell into his palm. He had obtained the key the moment he arrived. Most importantly, everyone's expression seemed to be a little dull. It was as if they had not recovered from some kind of shock. Under their numb emotions, they did not even have the mood to go forward and fight for the key. Su Li naturally felt that the crowd was strange and the current atmosphere was unusual. His gaze swept across the teams of Profound Sun Palace, Huan Yu Hall, even Heaven Pavilion, and a few other first-rate factions. His attention finally landed on the corpse on the other side of the meditation platform. The corpse was so tragic that one cannot bear to look at it. There was not the slightest fluctuation of life force. Numerous blood-colored bone spurs were like thorns of death emerging from the ground, piercing through his entire body. That is, Su Li's gaze turned cold as he carefully looked at the corpse. In the next second, his expression suddenly changed. Chen Lu? What? Hearing these 2 words, the expressions of the other people from the Spirit Phoenix Valley also changed. Chen Lu, one of the 5 Saint Kings of the God of War Palace? Really? He's the one who died? Harboring many doubts, Su Li immediately walked forward to identify it more seriously. Then, his brows furrowed even deeper. It's Chen Lu. It was Chen Lu. These 3 simple words struck the group of people from the Spirit Phoenix Valley like a bolt of lightning. Apart from the young man dressed in black, everyone else could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The reputation of the God of War Chen Lu had long resounded in everyone's ears. The top evildoer ranked 19th on the honor list had actually died so miserably. It was simply unbelievable. Could that person be Ling Yun's sex Yuan? Very quickly, the people from the Spirit Phoenix Valley discovered Yuan Yi, who was lying on another high platform, dying. It's definitely him. It's said that the Ling Yun sect was annihilated half a month ago. Only Yuan Yi escaped. Why would he appear here now? Chen Lu and Yuan, one dead and one seriously injured. Based on the information obtained by the various sects, it was not difficult to guess that the two of them had come together. Many sects knew that the Lingyun sect had some connections with the god of War Palace. But today, they had fallen here. Other than shock, there was nothing more. Besides the great shock, many questions arose in everyone's heart. Who did it? Su Li and the others' gazes were filled with seriousness as they scanned the people present. They were much more cautious than before. After quickly eliminating Yang Su, He Yin, and the others, Su Li's attention finally locked onto a young figure that was suspended in midair south of the worship platform. It was a seemingly ordinary young man, but it was as if his aura was unable to be concealed under the radiance of the bright moon. The outline of his handsome face was as clear as a stone sculpture. His eyes were like the vast universe, as if the stars of the world were hidden within. In particular, the few shallow bloodstains on his face aroused everyone's suspicions. Was he the one who did it? The people from the Spirit Phoenix Valley narrowed their eyes. But what was surprising was that at this moment, the other party's gaze was also coldly staring at the Spirit Phoenix Valley. His cold gaze pierced through the space of a few hundred meters, like a formless cold glint, staring straight at the black-robed man at the front of the group. Not far away, Yao clenched her jade-like hands and frowned. Big Brother Chu Hen's aura has changed again. She could clearly feel that the aura emitted by Chu Hen had once again become exceptionally cold. After a short few days of slumber, the restless monster in her body had once again quietly opened its eyes. It released an even more frightening and ruthless light than before. The ruthless aura was like a surging undercurrent in the deep sea. The temperature inside and outside the canyon dropped rapidly. The formless, cold, ruthless aura was like a storm, attacking everyone's body and mind. Was it because of this person? Yao bit her red lips and could not help but have some suspicions. Was it that person who caused the ruthless aura in Chu Hen's heart? Like the cycle of karma of all things in the world, when night and day alternated, the bright sun and the bright moon appeared at the two ends of the world at the same time. Under the illumination of the bright light, the beast that was hiding in the darkness quietly awakened the ruthlessness that had been accumulated for a long time. What a pity! You have once again appeared in front of me. The indifferent and arrogant low voice came from the mouth of the black-robed man, without the slightest fluctuation of emotion. He raised his eyelids, and a domineering aura spread out, causing the surrounding space to tremble with a strange rhythm. The moment the voice fell, Chu Hen also raised his cold eyes as a monstrous, ruthless aura, like that of an awakening ferocious beast, engulfed the world. Chapter 1383. So what? Facing Xiao Yao Cheng's sharp and arrogant aura, Chu Hen's eyes glowed with the cold hostility of an awakened ferocious beast. The invisible auras collided with each other, causing the space inside and outside the canyon to vibrate violently. The hearts of everyone present were shocked. They stared at the scene in front of them in astonishment. What was going on? What enmity existed between Chu Hen and Xiao Yao Cheng? Before they could recover from Chun Lu's defeat, the appearance of the Spirit Phoenix Valley once again caused the atmosphere to become indescribably restless. Not far behind, Yi Yao's beautiful eyes turned cold and her hands clenched into fists. As expected, just as she had guessed, there was indeed an unknown conflict between Chu Hen and this person. The other party was most likely the source of the hostility in Chu Hen's heart. Feeling the increasingly cold atmosphere and the rapidly increasing hostility of Chu Hen, Yi Yao's heart felt as if it was being firmly gripped by a hand that was gradually exerting force. Just as she was about to step forward to appease the other party's emotions, a voice that was as soft as water and as light as smoke came from the back of the Spirit Phoenix Valley crowd. Chu Hen, Chu Hen. The two gentle words were like the fragrance of flowers passing through the mountains and streams, or the breeze that drifted through the sea of people and rivers. The morning that had been separated for many years, the dusk that had not been seen for a long time, was a shackle in his memory. Hearing this voice, Chu Hen's heartstrings suddenly trembled. The gloomy darkness in the depths of his mind seemed to sprinkle a bright light. His gaze immediately swept to the back of the Spirit Phoenix Valley crowd, only to see a delicate and beautiful young figure slowly walking forward. In an instant, Chu Hen's pupils shrank and his face was filled with disbelief. The familiar figure and exquisite face gradually overlapped with a lingering shadow in his mind. After many years, she had shed the original noble and luxurious aura and gained some liveliness that did not belong to the royal family. Just like before, she was still beautiful. Xia Qing, Chu Hen called out softly. His voice was so soft that he could barely hear himself. The other party smiled. The elegance that flowed out from her bright eyes and white teeth was like a small white gesang flower. There was a kind of indescribable enchantment. "It's me, long time no see," Xia Qing said. At this moment, the sea of people inside and outside the canyon seemed to be empty. It was as if there were only the two of them in the entire world. The words, "It's me," were very touching. The words, "long time no see," were tinged with a touch of sadness. The enmity from many years ago was like dust that had been blown away by the wind, buried in the ground, and dispersed in the soil. The one standing in front of Chu Hen was no longer Huang Fuqing, but a complete Xia Qing. When he heard the words, "long time no see," the shackles in Chu Hen's heart seemed to be unlocked. The ferocious creature in his body that had opened its eyes gradually hid in the dust. The cold, vicious aura around him gradually subsided. The gloominess in his eyes also disappeared. At this moment, Yi Yao and Huang Fu Hao, who were standing behind them, had different expressions. The former was especially shocked and surprised. Yi Yao, who was also born in the Sacred Star Dynasty, immediately recognized the person in front of her. She was the former princess and regent of the dynasty, Huang Fuqing. As for Chu Hen, he was the one who destroyed the royal family of the dynasty with his own hands. After so many years from that small place in the eastern continent to today, when the entire Midland was being summoned for the Holy War, the two of them were like two planets that had crossed thousands of galaxies and unexpectedly met each other, as if they had once again fallen into the swirl of fate. Huang Fu Hao sighed helplessly. Before this, he had already seen Chu Hen. He didn't want Huang Fuqing to see him again. After all, fate made fools of people. Suddenly, at this moment, a sharp and cold sword-like light abruptly surged towards Chu Hen. Chu Hen was slightly startled. He turned his head and saw Xiaoyao Cheng's eyebrows were filled with coldness and fierceness. He stared at Chu Hen, and his eyes were filled with an unconcealable coldness. "Last time, as I said, that was your last chance." Before his voice faded, Xiaoyao Cheng raised his palm. An incomparably surging black whirlpool suddenly appeared around Chu Hen. Then, Xiaoyao Cheng clenched his 5 fingers. Buzz, waves of intense space vibrated, and the dense black whirlpool immediately became incomparably sharp, turning into streams of rapidly penetrating black light. "It's the dark light of death." The expressions of the surrounding people all changed. Anyone would be able to sense the powerful destructive aura that was released from the black light. The first move he made was a killing move. Xiaoyao Cheng didn't intend to show any mercy to Chu Hen at all. Countless rays of black light shot explosively towards Chu Hen, who was in the middle with the force of returning to their origin. "Brother Chu Hen, watch out." Yi Yao, who didn't react at all, turned pale with fright. The black light moved extremely fast, like a line of death shuttling between the sky and the earth. Chu Hen's pupils reflected the tens of thousands of light rays that were darting towards him, and a trace of coldness leaked out from between his eyebrows. Hiss! However, before Chu Hen could respond, a ball of red light suddenly surged around Chu Hen. The gorgeous light engulfed the clouds of fire in the evening sky, and the turbulent airwaves spread in all directions. Before the black light rays could touch Chu Hen's body, they were all shattered. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Under the aftermath of the chaotic energy, several meters in front of Chu Hen, there was an astonishingly beautiful, clear, and beautiful figure. Everyone from Spirit Phoenix Valley looked at each other. They looked at the scene in front of them in confusion. Xiaoyao Cheng's face became even more gloomy. His voice was as cold as frost. Junior Xiaqing, you actually stopped me? Xiaqing doesn't dare to disobey Senior Xiaoyao. Xiaqing's clear eyes were like water, calm and firm. She glanced at Chu Han behind her and said slowly, however, if anyone wants to hurt him, I won't allow it. Hua. As soon as she said this, everyone present became restless. Everyone in the valley couldn't help but want to watch a show. As for Spirit Phoenix Valley, they couldn't believe that Xiaqing would do this. Everyone knew that Xiaoyao Chang took care of Xiaqing and her brother. The two of them could be considered a good match, although Xiaqing had always rejected Xiaoyao Chang's pursuit. In everyone's eyes, it was only a matter of time. After all, with Xiaoyao Chang's position on the ranking list, there weren't many women who could reject him in this world. But at that moment, Xiaqing did something that no one dared to believe. She stood in front of Xiaoyao Chang and protected another man. Junior Xiaqing, what are you doing? Quickly apologized to Senior Xiaoyao. Someone hurriedly said, Senior Xiaoyao, don't be angry. I think Junior Xiaqing is just being impulsive. Sister Xiaqing, back then, when you and Brother Xiaohao were in a desperate situation in Midland, don't you forget who asked our master to take you in, and don't forget who has been taking good care of you and your brother all this time. Do you really want to go against Senior Xiaoyao for an outsider? Everyone tried to ease the awkward situation. Some of them even winked at Huang Fu Hao, hinting for him to quickly persuade Xiaqing. However, Huang Fu Hao only sighed helplessly. He understood Xiaqing. At a time like this, no one could persuade her. But after hearing everyone's persuasion, Xiaqing's eyes were filled with a trace of guilt. I thought you were just being silly. Come back to me now, and I won't pursue this matter. Xiaoyao Cheng looked at Xiaqing's beautiful face and said. The airflow above the valley became extremely rapid. Everyone in Spirit Phoenix Valley felt their heartstrings tighten. Chu Hen's eyes were filled with relief as he looked at the beautiful figure in front of him. He then walked up and said in a low voice, Don't worry, I will be fine. From everyone's words, Chu Hen could tell that Xiaoyao Cheng had helped Xiaqing and her brother for all these years. He didn't want to see Xiaqing be scolded as an ungrateful person because of him. Xiaqing looked back at him. The two of them looked at each other from such a close distance, like old friends who were standing in a sea of people with no time to care about anything else. After so many years, the two of them had changed a little, but the trace of affection in their eyes was still the same. And this scene caused Xiaoyao Cheng to burn with jealousy. His eyes were filled with coldness. You have already made me lose face. I will give you to the count of 3. Come back immediately. The invisible pressure was like a mountain that shrouded them. Everyone's expression changed. Immediately, Xiaqing turned to look at Xiaoyao Cheng, who was filled with killing intent, and spat out a word. Chapter 1384. No! Facing the murderous Xiaoyao Cheng, Xiaqing resolutely stood in front of Chu Hen. Her clear eyes were as clear as the stars, filled with determination. As soon as these words came out, Chu Hen, who was standing behind her, couldn't help but feel warmth in his heart. His eyes were filled with tenderness, and the scenes of his acquaintance in the Sacred Star Empire couldn't help but surface in his mind. As he gazed at the magnificent and beautiful figure, the vicious aura that was being emitted from Chu Hen's body completely disappeared. It was as if a refreshing mountain breeze blew past his irritable heart and gradually calmed him down. In comparison, Xiaoyao Cheng's face was extremely gloomy. He coldly stared at Xiaqing's beautiful face, and the flames of jealousy gradually burned in his eyes. To him, it wasn't as simple as losing face. A sneer immediately appeared on Xiaoyao Cheng's face. Very well, since you're so protective of him, then I'll let you personally witness how he dies. Everyone's heart jumped. Before Su Li and the others from the Spirit Phoenix Valley could dissuade him, they saw Xiaoyao Cheng's fingers condense and stretch out towards the two people in front of him. Buzz, along with a strong wave of energy, a black light net suddenly appeared between Chu Hen and Xiaqing. Then, Xiaoyao Cheng's arm moved backward, and the light net directly enveloped Xiaqing and forcibly pulled her back. Let her go. Chu Hen's face darkened, and he wanted to step forward to help Xiaqing. Hey, a person who's about to die. Mind your own business." In the next moment, Xiao Yao Cheng's eyes turned cold, and an incomparably surging dark aura arose from his body. Without waiting for Chu Hen to respond, a wave of dark energy that was several times stronger than before immediately eroded down. A black shadow quickly covered the sky above their heads. Xiao Yao Cheng clasped his hands together and shouted, "Wu Technique Seal!" Buzz buzz, a majestic cyclone like a black storm revolved around Chu Hen, and together with an extremely strong pressure, 3 illusory giant figures appeared in the dense black light. These 3 giant figures were all draped in loose black robes. He was like an ancient wizard from the mysterious region. Then, 3 shadows in black robes surrounded Chu Hen in the middle with the momentum of 3 cauldrons. Then, a pair of big hands reached out from their loose sleeves at the same time. A total of 3 pairs of hands were like the hands of gods and demons reaching out towards Chu Hen. Buzz, shocking energy fluctuations caused the surrounding space to warp and distort indeterminately, and the palms of every single pair of large hands radiated brilliant and mysterious flowing light. A huge ceiling power came crashing down. Chu Hen felt as if he had fallen into a terrifyingly dense swamp. Every inch of his flesh and blood felt like it was being squeezed by a tremendous force. "Noni, go help big brother Chu Hen." When Yi Yao saw this, she immediately led the Yin-Yang beast Noni to fly up and flash towards Chu Hen. Roar! The Yin-Yang beast opened its mouth and roared. At the same time, it erupted with the might of 10,000 beasts, and its body rapidly expanded. In an instant, it turned into a monstrous beast that was more than 100 meters tall. "Humph, a mere ant dares to act rashly in front of me," Xiao Yao Cheng sneered. As his voice fell, he gently lifted one of his hands, and a steady stream of dark flames spread towards Yi Yao and Noni like a prairie fire. The latter's eyes suddenly lit up, and the yin-yang vortex under his feet rose like clouds. Roar! He opened his fangs, and a black and white light swirled around the sky. Splitting light blade burst out, intending to cut the overlapping black flames with the momentum of breaking the flow. However, as soon as the 2 forces collided, the incomparably fierce black and white light swirling around the blade was instantly engulfed by the black flames. Like a clay ox entering the sea, it dissipated into nothingness. In the next second, the overwhelming black waves actually swam out a series of black chains that flickered with complicated, mysterious patterns. Rumble. A series of more than a dozen iron chains that emitted a soaring dark aura traversed the vast sky, directly wrapping around the yin-yang beast Noni's limbs and neck. The iron chains rapidly tightened, and with the power to trap the 9 ferocious beasts, they forcefully dragged Noni's enormous body into a mountain ridge below. Bang! The yin-yang beast smashed down heavily, directly collapsing half of the mountain ridge. Rocks crumbled, and the mountain ridge broke. The black chains that extended like a dragon python continuously wrapped around a mountain ridge, and then firmly tied it to the mountain's wall. Noni, Yi Yao was greatly alarmed. Gritting her teeth, Yi Yao's eyes turned into a pair of black and white yin-yang pupils. She had already rushed in front of Chu Hen, and both of her palms reached out. A powerful palm attack that combined both hardness and softness struck towards one of the 3 black-robed giant figures. However, before Yi Yao could touch the black figure, a powerful black halo directly swept out. It was as if a majestic shock wave rippled through the sky. Before Yi Yao could approach, she was blasted away by the tremendous force. The blood in her body churned, and her organs shook. Yi Yao's pretty little face unwittingly paled. Their cultivation wasn't on the same level at all. Everyone inside and outside the canyon was inwardly shocked. Xiao Yao Cheng's strength was truly unparalleled. Taking down everyone was as easy as flipping his hand. He's really too strong. No wonder he's ranked 12th on the honor list. He didn't even make a move. If Xiao Yao Cheng had come earlier, Chen Lu might have been able to keep his life. The amazement towards Xiao Yao Cheng was far more intense than towards Chun Lu. He Yin of Mystic Yang Palace, Yang Su of Equal Firmament Pavilion, Qing Yin of Fantasy Feather Hall, and the others all softly sighed and shook their heads. The Sacred Darkness physique was truly powerful. On the other side, Yuan Yi, who was lying in a pile of rubble on the verge of death, had a sinister look in his eyes. His face was suffused with a venomous sneer. Even the heavens can't spare you. So what if he lost? So what if Chun Lu died? An even more ruthless Xiao Yao Cheng came later. Chu Hen still wouldn't be able to leave alive. Even if I die, I'll watch you die before me. 3 giant black-robed figures were like ancient sorcerers. 3 pairs of hands gathered above Chu Hen's head. Their palms erupted with an abnormally powerful sealing pressure. The enormous sealing power filled every inch of Chu Hen's flesh and pores. Even the major meridians in his body seemed to be blocked. His true inner force couldn't flow smoothly. Damn it! Chu Hen frowned slightly. There was some seriousness in his eyes. We fought with Chun Lu just now. He had suffered serious injuries. Under normal circumstances, he could still break through his opponent's seal. But due to his injuries, he needed some time. However, it was obvious that Xiao Yao Cheng wouldn't give Chu Hen this chance. Be imprisoned in the darkness forever, Xiao Yao Cheng shouted sternly. Then he stretched out his arm. A vast and mighty dark cyclone quickly gushed out. In the process of pouncing towards Chu Hen, it directly turned into a huge palm. The huge black palm pounced towards his opponent with the power to capture a dragon. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. A wisp of scarlet light, mixed with a demonic purple light, surged rapidly. This is the only way. However, right at this moment, a screen of light that was like a crimson glow suddenly appeared in the sky. Bang! A heavy and shocking explosion sounded. The huge black hand suddenly burst open more than 10 meters in front of Chu Hen. The sky-shaking airwave was like a shattered black ball of water. Countless gorgeous scarlet lights were like beams of dazzling light, shattering the huge black hand. Everyone's expression changed again. Chu Hen's heart also froze for a moment. The pupils of the Spirit Phoenix Valley's disciples shrank slightly. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Wah! Thousands of youthful beauties, outstanding grace. The beautiful figure from before had once again appeared in the sky where the air waves were surging. Unknowingly, Xia Qing had broken through the black net that was holding her back. At this moment, there was a light and sharp, snow-white sword in her hand. The sword's body was like white jade, and there were glittering glass patterns on it. Just like her temperament, elegant and refined, it carried an innate royal aura. With regards to Xia Qing's intervention, the crowd was not surprised. What shocked them was that she was actually able to block Xiao Yao Cheng's attack. Not to mention that she herself was also imprisoned. There was no doubt that Xiao Yao Cheng was strong. However, Xia Qing was not known by the crowd. Who is she? I don't know. As far as I know, the Spirit Phoenix Valley only has Xiao Yao Cheng and Su Li. The strength of the Spirit Phoenix Valley is only supported by the 2 of them. I have never heard of anyone else. For what they said just now, it could be concluded that this woman entered the Spirit Phoenix Valley only a few years ago. Could she be the Spirit Phoenix Valley's secret weapon? The crowd began to speculate. However, what they did not notice was that the people from the Spirit Phoenix Valley also had an unconcealable shock on their faces. Junior sister Xia Qing. She actually blocked senior brother Xiao Yao's great calamity hand. How could this be? The wind whistled, and the cyclone was like a blade. Xiao Yao Cheng's eyes were as cold as a frost blade. Do you really want to attack me? Xia Qing frowned and replied coldly. I don't want to, but you insist on killing him, and I won't allow it. Ha ha. Xiao Yao Cheng laughed wantonly. Do you know what you're doing now? I won't forgive you even if you kneel and beg me in the future. If you withdraw your sword now, it's still not too late. The people from the Spirit Phoenix Valley were extremely anxious. Junior brother Xia Hao quickly persuade junior sister Xia Qing. That's right, it's not worth it to do this for an outsider. Don't forget senior brother Xiao Yao's kindness to you. Due to the crowd's persuasion, Huang Fuhao's face was also filled with helplessness and anxiety. He quickly stepped forward and said, "Sister, don't anger senior brother Xiaoyao anymore." However, Xiaqing still had no intention of moving even after Huang Fuhao's persuasion. Her beautiful eyes stared straight at Xiaoyao Cheng, and her red lips opened slightly. "Senior brother Xiaoyao, I beg you to let him go." "Ha ha, beg me? You're actually begging me for this person. Then I'm sorry, but today he must die." "Must die?" Xiaoyao Cheng's eyes emitted a penetrating cold light after he made up his mind to kill. "I'm sorry." Xiaqing's eyes flashed with determination. "You alone can't stop me." After he finished speaking, Xiaoyao Cheng directly flew down. The vast and mighty dark energy was like a flood that broke through a dam, sweeping towards Xiaqing and Chuhen below. Xiaqing's beautiful eyes lifted and her wrist moved slightly. The white jade, snow, sword in her hand exploded with a dazzling light. She raised her sword, and a ring-shaped sword chi burst out like a cracked lightning ball. An extremely strong, cutting, and penetrating force was released along the ring-shaped sword chi. All the dark energy that came into contact with it was actually torn into long and narrow slits. "Oomph!" Xiaoyao Cheng coldly snorted. While easily avoiding the ring-shaped sword chi, he instantly arrived at Xiaqing's side and reached for her shoulder like a sharp claw. Xiaqing looked to the side and actually switched the long sword in her right hand to her left hand. The sharp sword slashed through the air, dragging a crescent-shaped sword chi as it attacked Xiaoyao Cheng's chest. Xiaoyao Cheng didn't expect his opponent's reaction to be so fast. He was a little surprised, and a little disdain appeared on his face. He then raised his hand and slapped the blade of the sword. Bang! The sword chi scattered in all directions, along with a long string of sounds. The moment the long sword in Xiaqing's hand was shaken off, Xiaoyao Cheng's palm actually released a shocking stickiness. That stickiness directly stuck to the sword, making it difficult for it to escape from his opponent's palm. "You're overestimating yourself," Xiaoyao Cheng said coldly. He controlled Xiaqing's weapon with one hand and condensed a frighteningly restless dark energy in the other. However, just when everyone thought that the battle was over, Xiaqing's face didn't have a trace of panic. Her eyes slightly focused, and the hand that was holding the long sword glowed with a strange soft light. Then, the soft light swayed up and down the blade. In the next second, the sharp sword actually became illusory. The illusory blade was like a shadow that didn't have a physical body and strangely passed through Xiaoyao Cheng's palm. "What?" Everyone's eyes widened in shock. The moment the sharp sword passed through Xiaoyao Cheng's palm, it actually became physical again and very cleverly switched to Xiaqing's right hand. The blade swayed with a dazzling cold light and stabbed diagonally towards Xiaoyao Cheng. Even though he was surprised again, he was still in existence, ranked 12th on the international influential rank of the strong. He shot out two of his fingers at lightning speed, and when the sword was less than 10 centimeters away from his body, he clamped the sword between his fingers. Shing! The chi pattern that covered the blade of the sword let out a deep sound. "Oomph!" The moment Xiaoyao Cheng held the blade in place, he exerted force in the opposite direction and directly pushed the blade towards Xiaqing. However, immediately after, Xiaoyao Cheng suddenly felt that there was nothing between his fingers. He saw that the long sword had once again left his control and turned into a wisp of shadow, passing through his palm and cutting the back of his arm. This time, Xiaoyao Cheng was somewhat unprepared. He immediately leaned to the side and retreated. The sharp sword that instantly became physical almost brushed past Xiaoyao Cheng's chest. Although the faint sword light didn't hurt him in the slightest, it still cut open the dark energy that was attached to Xiaoyao Cheng's body. Everyone who witnessed this scene was even more shocked. "What an exquisite sword technique!" someone in the crowd exclaimed. Chapter 1385. She actually learned the illusory sword technique. Exclamations of surprise came from the mouths of the people from Spirit Phoenix Valley. Even Su Li, another genius on the list, had a serious look on his face. Did she learn it in the divine Phoenix mystic sky? What a shocking talent! Whoosh! Xia Qing's illusory sword could be described as swaying in the wind and rain. The sword's momentum was sometimes steady, sometimes elegant, and the way she swung her sword back and forth made people's eyes light up. The most peculiar thing was that the long sword in her hand could be real or fake. Every time it was controlled by Xiao Cheng, it could instantly break the control and switch between offense and defense. Illusory sword technique, Xia Qing shouted softly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In a split second, phantoms that were hard to distinguish between real and fake appeared all around Xiao Cheng. The phantoms' sword attacks were extremely fast, as if they were teleporting. The phantoms bloomed around Xiao Cheng, and the rhythm of the attack was like a storm. The sword radiance between heaven and earth was dazzling. Xia Qing was like a phantom, and her sword was like a bright moon. He gazed at the dazzling scene before him. Everyone's hearts were filled with shock and doubt. Everyone looked at Xia Qing with puzzled eyes. Even Chu Hen, who was imprisoned under the Wushu seal, was surprised. After so many years, Xia Qing's cultivation had increased to such an extent. One had to know that she, who was not ranked on the list, was facing Xiao Cheng, who was ranked 12th on the list. Even Chen Lu, one of the 5 Saint Kings of the War God Palace, was 7 ranks lower than him. The higher one's rank was, the greater the disparity between their ranks. In the eyes of everyone, Xia Qing's current performance was very unbelievable. Night beast devours the sun, Xiao Cheng shouted. Wind and waves rose, and dark clouds covered the sky. An unparalleled dark aura immediately shrouded the sky above the Grand Canyon, and Xiao Cheng's body set off an abnormally overbearing dark light. There seemed to be many fierce beasts roaring in the dark light. Pairs of ferocious blood-red eyes lit up in the black light, and a formless, dark monster covered in strange eyes quickly rose up. It was like an ancient evil creature from the dark world. The rapidly increasing majestic power was like a black flame burning the sky. Outside the arena, everyone's faces turned pale. Fear surged in everyone's eyes as they looked at the formless black fog-like monster. The sacred body of darkness can devour anything. This aura is really unsettling. Yes, I can't capture this dark aura, but it's everywhere. How terrifying. Under everyone's fearful gazes, the dark night beast's body grew even larger. Even the scorching sun in the sky was covered by a layer of gray shadow. Xiao Cheng, who was under the night beast, had a cold look in his eyes, just like a powerful shaman. Feeling the frightening aura from the other party, Xia Qing's eyebrows furrowed with caution, but she did not seem to be afraid at all. Then, she held the sword vertically in front of her body with the tip of the sword pointing upwards. At the same time, the index and middle fingers of his left hand pressed against the back of the sword and pushed upwards. A wisp of dreamlike blood rune seeped out from her fingertip. In an instant, the snow-white jade sword in her hand shone brightly. A dazzling, multicolored rune spread out in the shape of a vine net. Illusory, dancing sword formation. Xing, accompanied by a loud and impassioned sword cry. A sharp and chilling aura suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. A large diamond-shaped formation that was hundreds of meters wide suddenly appeared around Xiao Cheng. This formation was actually formed by countless swords arranged in a row. The faces of the Spirit Phoenix Valley disciples changed again. It's the illusory, dancing sword formation. Has she cultivated the illusory sword technique to such a level? Without giving the crowd too much time to be surprised, Xia Qing's beautiful eyes lifted and her red lips moved slightly. So her eyes. Buzz. The moment her voice fell, an extraordinary and transcendent sword intent caused the sky to tremble. In the next second, all the swords that were arranged in the formation exploded with the speed of light and attacked the dark night beast in the middle. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sword intent was like a storm, and the killing intent could split the sky. For example, tens of thousands of rays of light pierced through the layers of dark clouds. The sky was filled with interweaving swords that dragged beams of light as they flew. It was like a meteor shower that shuttled between heaven and earth, all of them attacking the body of the huge Dark Knight beast. The extraordinary sword rain danced in the sky, and one after another, bright light pierced through the body of the Dark Knight beast. The body of the black flame was like a cloud that had been torn apart, and the many strange eyes that were spread all over it were also destroyed by the sword energy. The heart-palpitating Dark Knight beast had not even been able to show its might before it was destroyed by the endless sword energy. The appearance of this scene caused people to have a whole new level of respect for Xiaqing. Compared to the confusion and doubt of the outsiders, the people of Spirit Phoenix Valley felt even more incredulous. Even Huangfu Hao was shocked by the strength of his own sister's cultivation. What did she obtain in the divine Phoenix Mystic Sky? How did her strength increase so much? A Spirit Phoenix Valley disciple exclaimed. It's really hard to see through her. It seems that even Senior Su Li was unable to learn the illusory sword technique in the divine Phoenix Mystic Sky. Towards the name, Divine Phoenix Mystic Sky, the faces of the people of Spirit Phoenix Valley were filled with yearning. As everyone knew, the Divine Phoenix Mystic Sky was an ancient mystic realm that the founder of Spirit Phoenix Valley, the Phoenix Ancestor, had spent her entire life to create. This mystic realm had been passed down for a long time and had a heritage of more than 10,000 years. Inside, there were many secret manuals and inherited divine talismans. As long as one was able to enter the Divine Phoenix Mystic Sky, not one of them was not a heaven-sent genius, a monstrous genius that was one in a million. Only those who had made great contributions to the sect would have the qualifications to enter. However, the results of those who came out of the Divine Phoenix Mystic Sky were quite different. After entering the mystic realm of other sects, or other regions, most of them would have their cultivation soar, and their strength would increase greatly. But the ancient mystic realm of Spirit Phoenix Valley was different. After some people entered, their strength did not change much, but there were some people who advanced by leaps and bounds. It could be said that the lower limit of the Divine Phoenix Mystic Sky was very low, but the upper limit was also very high. Take Su Li, for example. He was ranked 27th on the honor list. Without a doubt, his talent was definitely at the top of the pyramid of geniuses in the Central Continent. When he first entered the Divine Phoenix Mystic Sky, everyone thought that Su Li's cultivation would skyrocket. But the reality was that he only passed. He did not reach the peak that everyone expected, nor was he too embarrassing. Therefore, the unstable factors of the Divine Phoenix Mystic Sky made people not pay too much attention to the usually taciturn Xiaqing. At the same time, it was also this instability that caused everyone to be surprised. The Divine Phoenix Mystic Sky is a place that people can't fathom. Her cultivation has already surpassed senior apprentice Brother Su Li. No one denied it. After all, with Su Li's strength, it was impossible for him to deal with Xiaoyao Cheng for so long without being defeated. The upper limit of the Divine Phoenix Mystic Sky on Xiaqing's body could be said to be terrifyingly high. While everyone was confused about the reason, there were also many people who expressed anger and indignation. Humph, this ungrateful woman. She didn't even think about who helped her obtain a spot to enter the Mystic Sky. That's right. With her talent, even if she stayed for another 10 years, she still wouldn't have the qualifications to enter the Divine Phoenix Mystic Sky. Now she's using the martial arts she learned in the Mystic Sky to deal with senior apprentice Brother Xiaoyao. She's simply shameless. Shameless. Senior apprentice Brother Xiaoyao is really blind. How could he like such a shameless woman? Everyone felt that Xiaoyao Cheng was unworthy. Among them, there was no lack of young women who adored Xiaoyao Cheng. They all cursed at Xiaqing. On the side, Huangfu Hao's face turned deep red as he shouted, "All of you shut up. Who do you think you are? You think you're qualified to yell at me?" A pretty young woman coldly glanced at him, her face full of disdain. "I won't allow you to scold my sister. So what if I scold her? I don't think you're a good person either. These two siblings are both ungrateful ingrates." Huangfu Hao was about to explode when Su Li's cold voice stopped everyone. "Stop arguing. Don't you think you've lost enough face? Only then did everyone shut up. However, a few of Xiao Yaocheng's die-hard followers glared back at Huang Fuhao. The latter had a belly full of anger, but couldn't vent it. Even so, Huang Fuhao didn't think that Xia Qing did the right thing. He could only shake his head and sigh. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The merciless sword shadows were like intersecting streams of light. In an instant, the monstrous Dark Knight beast was smashed into pieces. Xiao Yaocheng's eyes revealed a hint of coldness as he felt the powerful sword aura that could tear the sky apart. Good, the divine phoenix secret heaven actually allowed your cultivation to reach such a level. You really didn't disappoint me. But don't forget, who gave you the ability to stand in front of me? A cold glint flashed between his brows. Xiao Yaocheng put his palms together, then pulled them apart. A thick black whirlpool of light rapidly rotated. Break! Xiao Yaocheng yelled. Along with the trembling and distorted space, the black vortex of light in his palm was like a nebula vortex that was rapidly bursting open. A vast and terrifying black shock wave swept out in all directions with a momentum of sweeping through all directions. The aura soared to the sky, and the color of the 9 heavens changed. In an instant, all the light sword rain that filled the sky was shattered. Xia Qing, who was right in front, narrowed her eyes and used her sword to block in front of her. Bang! A slight dull sound spread out. Xia Qing's body trembled slightly as a circle of chaotic red sword light dissipated in front of her. Her delicate and beautiful face faintly paled. I'm very satisfied. Xiao Yaocheng's face revealed a proud smile. He looked at Xia Qing in front of him with a burning gaze and said arrogantly, You have the qualifications for me to forgive you again. I'll give you one last chance. Kill him. I won't pursue any of your mistakes. Everyone sighed deeply. The woman in front of them could actually make Xiao Yaocheng humble himself again and again. If it was any other woman, they would probably find it hard to reject Xiao Yaocheng's request. However, Xia Qing's eyes did not move at all. Her expression was indifferent. Her jade sword was like snow as she resolutely blocked in front of Chu Hen without the slightest bit of hesitation. Back then in the Sacred Star Dynasty, I didn't protect him well. This time, I won't see anyone hurt him. Back then in the Sacred Star Dynasty, her soft voice had a kind of unquestionable determination. Chu Hen, who was under the seal of the 3 black shadows, felt his heart tremble. The lake that was hidden in the depths of his heart rippled. Looking at the slender and tall figure, he couldn't help but feel a trace of warmth in his eyes. After so many years, she had always remembered it in her heart. The deep-rooted shackles had never been removed. Xia Qing's words had completely infuriated Xiao Yaocheng. Xiao Yaocheng's face instantly became extremely gloomy. The wind and clouds rose, and the cold wind was like frost. Everyone present could feel the chilling anger emanating from the other party. Don't force me, I'm sorry. Xia Qing's beautiful eyes looked up, and her sword glowed softly. Make your move. These simple words had already expressed Xia Qing's determination. In an instant, an uncontrollable monstrous aura burst out from Xiao Yaocheng's body. The pressure that was comparable to a mountain immediately shrouded them. Everyone present felt as if they were carrying a heavy burden on their shoulders. The sky suddenly sank into endless darkness. Even the scorching sun's light was covered by the dark clouds. This is what you asked for. The surging black light angrily soared to the 9 heavens. Xiao Yaocheng was like a sorcerer god who controlled the power of darkness. Black curtains quickly covered the sky and the earth, attacking the huge canyon inside and outside. This aura? Everyone turned pale with fright. The people from the Spirit Phoenix Valley couldn't help but panic. This was the first time they saw Xiao Yaocheng so angry. Buzz buzz. An abnormally strong dark aura covered the sky above the Great Canyon. Above the void, a dark and ancient desolate hall quietly appeared. It was like a dream, real and fake. One after another, gigantic phantoms dressed in black robes appeared in the hall. They were like the mysterious and majestic aura of an ancient priest. At this moment, Xia Qing was in the ancient hall that was shrouded in darkness. More than 10 black-robed figures surrounded her. In an instant, Xia Qing's aura was directly suppressed to the extreme. She was like a prisoner under the sentence of a criminal law. Senior brother Xiao Yao, don't. Huang Fuhao turned pale with fright and was about to step forward to stop him. But before he could get close to the ancient hall, an iron chain with a cold light swayed out of the darkness and sent him flying. Chu Hen, who was in the seal, also had a change of expression. Not good. Shortly after, Chu Hen closed his eyes and suddenly opened them. A bewitching purple light leaked out from his eyes. The powerful purple light burst out from his body like a dragon python. The 3 black shadows that sealed him emitted waves of restless energy. At the same time, more than 10 black-robed figures in the ancient hall stretched out their hands that were as dry as tree branches. Thick darkness overflowed from each of the black-robed figures' palms. I won't kill you, but I will make you regret it for the rest of your life. Not just you. No one can save him today. Xiao Yao Cheng's voice seemed to fill every corner of the canyon. The huge dark aura was everywhere. Endless darkness. Buzz. The boundless dark energy was like a tsunami flowing into a dried-up riverbed, surging towards Xia Qing, who was in the ancient hall. Like a swamp, the darkness quickly swallowed everything. There was not a single ray of light in the sky above the great canyon. The curtain of night, darker than the night, descended. Everyone present felt powerless, as if they were on the verge of death. He could only watch as the magnificent figure was swallowed by the darkness, unable to do anything else. Bang! At this moment, the fierce purple lightning forcefully broke through Wushu's seal. Like a dragon python, a pillar of lightning smashed into the 3 black shadows with the force of a thunderbolt. Chu Hen didn't say anything else. Like a shooting star streaking across the night sky, he quickly flew towards the ancient palace. Suddenly, right at this moment, a ball of gorgeous multicolored light suddenly flowed out from within the darkness. What is that? Everyone was stunned. Chu Hen was also stunned for a moment. Then, a flame seemed to soar from the darkness, like a sun rising from the horizon. What followed was a ray of light that pierced through the darkness. It was like a divine light that pierced through the sky. One after another, it pierced through the heavens. Then, countless rays of red light pierced through the heavens, breaking through the layers of darkness and sprinkling down on the earth. The pupils of everyone present constricted, and all of them felt extremely astonished. What was going on? Boom! Accompanied by the blooming, glorious sun-divine light, the sea of red flames expelled the endless darkness. Under countless gazes filled with shock, a dazzling phoenix phantom with a divine halo hovering around its soared into the sky. It spread its wings and soared into the sky. Screech! An extraordinary battle cry pierced into the depths of everyone's souls. Everyone present felt as if they were in the presence of an ancient god, their hearts trembling. At this moment, everyone from the Spirit Phoenix Valley changed their expressions. Chapter 1386. Battle Phoenix Soul. She actually obtained the Battle Phoenix Soul. An unprecedented, trembling expression instantly covered the faces of every single person in the Spirit Phoenix Valley. The blazing red glow penetrated through the layers of darkness, just like the first rays of dawn that shone on everyone's faces. Pairs of pupils that were reflecting the divine splendor rapidly contracted, surging with disbelief and astonishment. Buzz, the world was shrouded in darkness, like a blazing sun rising with the power to burn the heavens. Amidst the flames, a resplendent phoenix phantom with a sacred halo was born, bathed in the flames. Xia Qing stood in front of the phoenix head, a pair of beautiful eyes glowing with holy and noble radiance. The jade-colored snow sword in her hand had ancient and mysterious runes circulating, beautiful beyond compare. She was like an untainted immortal, making people's hearts palpitate. Screech! Following that, a loud and clear phoenix cry reverberated in all directions. The phoenix shadow behind Xia Qing suddenly opened its eyes. In an instant, a peerless battle power that looked down on all things in the world was emitted. The majestic battle power that covered the sky and earth was like a god descending to the world. The wings spread out and soared straight up, breaking free from the shackles of heaven and earth, tearing the dark net. Buzz. In the next moment, the unparalleled red light completely bloomed, and countless beams of divine light were like the holy light of the scorching sun. Thousands of holy lights were like sharp swords that pierced through the sky and stars that traced back to the vast universe. Wherever they went, the layers of darkness were torn apart, and the dark light was crushed inch by inch. It was like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. The ancient dark palace and the shadows of the black-robed priests were all swallowed by the red light. At the same time, Xiao Yao Cheng, who was hiding in the darkness, was immediately exposed in the void. When the darkness faded, the light once again dominated the earth. Under the countless shocked gazes of the audience, countless red light beams were comparable to sharp swords that pierced through the sky, falling towards Xiao Yao Cheng. Buzz, buzz. There seemed to be some kind of ancient chanting sound between heaven and earth. Endless beams of light instantly engulfed Xiao Yao Cheng. Everyone's eyes could only see a blurry black afterimage. Profound Yang Palace, Qixiao Pavilion, Huanyu Palace, and everyone else had an indescribable feeling of a dream. The change from dusk to dawn in the blink of an eye caught everyone off guard. It seemed like a long time had passed, but it also seemed like a blink of an eye. The crimson light pouring down from the sky gradually faded away. As the sky gradually returned to normal, a light breeze blew past. Chu Hen, Xia Qing, and Xiao Yao Cheng stood in different positions. The whole place was silent. Everyone's heartstrings were stretched taut. Everyone's gaze kept shifting back and forth between the three of them. Compared to Xia Qing's calmness, Xiao Yao Cheng had a faint sense of dejection. He was a top genius ranked 12th on the wind cloud list, the holder of the sacred body of darkness. He didn't have the domineering aura he had before. Xiao Yao Cheng lost? Everyone had the same question in their hearts. However, there were no obvious injuries on Xiao Yao Cheng's body. At this moment, a stream of blood flowed out from Xiao Yao Cheng's right sleeve and dripped down his little finger. Everyone's expression changed drastically. The faces of those from the Spirit Phoenix Valley turned pale. Senior brother Xiao Yao, Su Li, Huangfu Hao, and the rest widened their eyes and couldn't help sucking in a breath of cold air. Yang Su, He Yin, Qing Yin, Flower Snake, and the rest were also trembling, unable to conceal the shock on their faces. Even Yi Yao, who was on the other side, subconsciously clenched her fists. Her pretty little face was filled with a complicated expression. As for Chu Hen, he just quietly looked at the familiar figure that he hadn't seen for a long time. The previous separation wasn't as peaceful as before, but it didn't seem too bad either. This is the legendary soul of the Battle Phoenix? After a short period of silence, everyone's heart once again became restless. The one who obtains the Phoenix soul will be in charge. If that's the case, she will be the next in charge of the Spirit Phoenix Valley. Is the Spirit Phoenix Valley going to change? There seemed to be a storm in the sky. Everyone looked at Xia Qing with an earth-shattering change. Especially the disciples of the Spirit Phoenix Valley. Their eyes were faintly trembling. The soul of the Battle Phoenix. It was the most supreme and shocking inheritance left behind by the Phoenix ancestor in the divine Phoenix arcane sky. Speaking of the founder of the Spirit Phoenix Valley, the Phoenix ancestor, there were many legends about him. According to the rumors, he was the descendant of the divine beast, the Phoenix. In his body flowed the blood of a human and a phoenix. There were also rumors that he was actually the incarnation of the Phoenix spirit, but there was no doubt that in the era he lived in, the outstanding Phoenix ancestor had once dominated an area and swept away many peerless powerhouses in the Midland. She was even on an equal footing with many world-shaking great emperors. Then, the Phoenix ancestor founded the Spirit Phoenix Valley and left behind many treasures in the divine Phoenix arcane sky for the later generations to enjoy. Among them, The most powerful inheritance was the so-called soul of the battle phoenix. The power of the phoenix soul could penetrate the heavens and the earth. The power of the battle swept through the world and was incomparable. Moreover, there was an ancient rule in the Spirit Phoenix Valley that had been passed down to this day. The one who obtains the phoenix soul will be in charge. In other words, whoever was able to obtain the battle phoenix soul in the divine phoenix arcane sky would directly become the next valley master of the Spirit Phoenix Valley. However, for thousands of years, no one in the Spirit Phoenix Valley was able to obtain the phoenix soul. This also caused the rule to never be implemented. This caused the overall strength of the Spirit Phoenix Valley to gradually decline and was left far behind by the super sects like the War God Palace. However, no one would have thought that after countless years of wind and frost, the divine power of the battle phoenix would reappear in the world today. What was even more unbelievable was that the battle phoenix soul did not fall into the hands of the top geniuses like Xiao Yao Cheng or Su Li. Instead, it appeared in the hands of an unknown woman. It's really the battle phoenix soul? Big Sister is the next Valley Master? Regarding this, Huangfu Hao still felt like he was living in a dream. Previously, he purely thought that Xia Qing was only acting on impulse. She simply could not resist Xiao Yao Cheng's murderous intent towards Chu Hen. Shock, surprise, astonishment, followed by excitement that caught him off guard. In comparison, the rest of the people in the Spirit Phoenix Valley had an indescribable, complex feeling. This situation was simply too abrupt. It was so absurd that it caught everyone off guard. Without a doubt, they were all Xiao Yao Cheng's loyal supporters, and everyone listened to Xiao Yao Cheng's words. But now, the battle phoenix's soul had descended into the world, and it was earth-shattering, completely disrupting everyone's train of thought. Why didn't you kill me? After a long silence, Xiao Yao Cheng slowly raised his head. His eyes were filled with sorrow and desolation that had never been seen before. Xia Qing's eyes flashed with a trace of apology. After all, I owe you a debt of gratitude. Huh? Xiao Yao Cheng laughed. It was an extremely dry laugh. It was a laugh of self-mockery and anger. Owe you a debt of gratitude? Ha ha ha. You might as well kill me. Do you know that you took everything from me? Why is it you? Haven't you made me lose enough face? Xiao Yao Cheng roared at the top of his lungs. His eyes were red like an enraged beast. Everyone in the Spirit Phoenix Valley secretly shook their heads. To be honest, Xiao Yao Cheng had already been decided to be the next Valley Master, but that was under the premise that the Battle Phoenix soul hadn't appeared yet. In addition to today's defeat, there was almost no chance for him to make a comeback. Xia Qing pursed her red lips and immediately said, I will return your debt of gratitude. Ha 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 ha. Return? How? Do you think that I, Xiao Yao Cheng, am a beggar? I want your pity. Suddenly, without waiting for Xia Qing to finish her sentence, Xiao Yao Cheng's eyes suddenly burst with a blood-red ruthlessness. Then he stretched his palm behind him, and an extremely strong suction force suddenly erupted from his palm. The strong and biting cold reverse whirling force surged towards Huangfu Hao behind him. Without any time to react, Huangfu Hao screamed in panic. Before he could understand what was happening, a dragon claw-like palm strangled Huangfu Hao's throat. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Chu Hen, Yi Yao, and Xia Qing frowned. Chapter 1387. If you want him to live, give me the soul of the battle phoenix. The hurricane was piercingly cold, and the chill was pressing. Xiao Yao Cheng's aura suddenly changed. He grabbed Huangfu Hao's throat and glared at Xia Qing. Everyone present was greatly alarmed. No one would have thought that the usually imposing and arrogant Xiao Yao Cheng would suddenly use this move. Chu Hen's eyes were slightly cold, and his hands were clenched into fists, but he didn't dare to act rashly. On the contrary, many disciples from the Spirit Phoenix Valley revealed anxious and panicked expressions. Senior brother Xiao Yao, you can't. Su Li, who was in the lead, hurriedly stepped forward to stop him. The soul of the battle phoenix belongs to the fated. You can't do such a rebellious thing. The soul of the battle phoenix had descended into the world. Without a doubt, Xia Qing had become the next ruler of Spirit Phoenix Valley. As a disciple of the Spirit Phoenix Valley, even if she had a lot of respect for Xiao Yao Cheng, it was still inappropriate for him to do so under such circumstances. However, Su Li had only taken a few steps forward when Xiao Yao Cheng turned his body and looked back. His red eyes were filled with a ruthless aura. Get lost. A boundless and ferocious aura erupted as a vast and mighty black shock wave unfurled. The incomparably ferocious energy directly struck Su Li's body. Bang! A heavy sound rang out. Su Li felt as if he had been struck by a mountain. His body violently shook as he was sent flying. At the same time, a mouthful of blood spurted from his mouth. Senior Su Li, the people from the Spirit Phoenix Valley panicked and hurriedly went forward to support him. Su Li, who had finally stabilized himself, was pale. He looked at Xiao Yao Cheng in disbelief. If anyone dares to take another step forward, I'll break their throat. Xiao Yao Cheng's power was overwhelming. Overbearing and vigorous dark force revolved around him like a black vortex, stirring up the heavens and earth. Under such circumstances, not to mention stopping the other party, it was impossible for them to even get close to him. It happened so suddenly that the people inside and outside of the canyon did not expect it. Huang Fuhao's entire face was swollen and purple. He was like a chicken in Xiao Yao Cheng's hand, unable to move. Hua! Then, Xiao Yao Cheng's cold gaze swept towards Xia Qing again. His words were like needles, sharp and cold. Battle Phoenix Soul, give it to me. His tone brooked no refusal. However, looking at the other party's cold face, other than a trace of worry for Huang Fuhao, Xia Qing's expression did not change much. She gently lifted her jade-like hand and gently touched it with her slender fingers. Buzz, wisps of crimson light gathered toward her palm like gossamer threads. Accompanied by a dazzling, colorful holy light, a flame-shaped light ball appeared in her hand. Astonishingly, there was a solid projection of a phoenix within the ring of flames. From afar, the phoenix silhouette seemed like an ethereal, dreamy phantom. Its wings would stretch and retract from time to time, and its body would undergo strange changes with every passing second. Was that the soul of the battle phoenix? Looking at the phantasm of light that was exuding an ancient and mysterious aura, everyone's faces revealed a sincere look of bewilderment and excitement, especially the disciples of the Spirit Phoenix Valley. All of them looked at Xia Qing in astonishment. She actually handed over the battle phoenix soul so easily. Everyone knew what that ball of unpredictable phoenix bathing in flames signified. Not only did it represent the power that stood at the top of the pyramid, it also represented the highest authority in the Spirit Phoenix Valley. Yet, Xia Qing handed it over without a second thought. Actually, you don't have to do this, Xia Qing said softly. Oomph. Xiao Yao Cheng's face was filled with malevolence and complacency. This battle phoenix soul, I originally wanted to give it to you, Xia Qing said calmly and indifferently. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. On the day I obtained the battle phoenix's soul, the Valley Master came to me in private. I told him that I would pass the phoenix's soul to you after the Holy War. Duan Ling Tian said. What did you say? Xiao Yao Cheng's eyes were filled with coldness. Xia Qing shook her head lightly and immediately heaved a sigh of relief. It was as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. I know that you've done us a favor, so this battle phoenix soul and the Valley Master's position will be given to you. From today onwards, the two of us no longer owe you anything. After she finished speaking, Xia Qing's jade-like finger gently flicked. The ball of flame that was like a ball of light slipped in her palm and floated towards Xiao Yao Cheng's position. There was no reluctance. There was no reluctance at all. Clean and neat. Although she was born in the imperial family, she looked at power and position with such indifference. Looking at this scene, the way everyone looked at Xia Qing changed once again, especially the Spirit Phoenix Valley disciples. They did not dare to believe it. Junior sister Xia Qing. This woman is really, those who had just cursed Xia Qing for being ungrateful and shameless all shut their mouths. If it were any of them, they would never hand over the phoenix soul so easily. from Xia Qing. They saw the elegance and holiness that was not tainted by worldly benefits. At this moment, everyone understood why even Xiao Yaocheng and Su Li could not obtain the battle phoenix soul from the divine phoenix mystic heaven. But this woman did it. Looking at the battle phoenix soul that was constantly floating over, Xiao Yaocheng's expression was a little absent-minded. However, in the next second, his eyes were once again shrouded with coldness. "Heh, stupid woman, do you really think I'll believe you?" After he finished speaking, Xiao Yaocheng raised his palm and clenched his 5 fingers. A powerful suction force burst out, and the ball of flame that shrouded the illusory phoenix shadow immediately flew towards him. Everyone from the Spirit Phoenix Valley was shocked. No one could stop it in time. Under the countless gazes that were filled with shock, the ball of flame phoenix shadow directly fell into Xiao Yaocheng's palm. Then, it turned into a wisp of soft light in the dense black vortex and fused into his palm. Hiss! In an instant, a circle of majestic power that was as vast as a tsunami instantly gushed out from Xiao Yaocheng's body. The moment the battle phoenix soul entered his body, a monstrous power that could not be suppressed was comparable to the eruption of a volcano that had accumulated for thousands of years. "Ah!" Xiao Yaocheng shouted loudly. His entire body trembled, and his facial features became sinister. At the same time that Huangfu Hao, whose throat was being choked, relaxed, a wave of violent power rushed over and sent him flying like a sandbag. The majestic dark power was like a whistling hurricane that swept over the entire canyon. Xia Qing slightly knitted her brows and immediately flew forward to support Huangfu Hao. Big sister, I almost died." Huangfu Hao gasped for air. His face was deathly pale, and his eyes were filled with lingering fear. "It's okay." Xia Qing comforted him in a low voice. Screech! At the same time, a phoenix cry resounded through the sky, causing the 9 heavens to tremble. The wind rose, and the clouds surged, and the universe trembled. A steady stream of terrifying aura rose rapidly from Xiao Yaocheng's body. The endless dark power, mixed with the terrible red flame light, almost crushed the space in all directions. Beams of intertwining power shot up into the void, causing thunder to pierce through the sky and the day and night to rotate. Everyone's faces changed dramatically. Everyone seemed to be in the middle of a violent nebula that swept the ocean. Xiao Yaocheng's throat kept emitting terrifying roars. The super divine power from the battle phoenix soul filled every inch of his flesh and blood, almost bursting his blood vessels. Wisps of red light and black arcs intertwined around his body. Buzz, along with the trembling and twisting space, 2 demonic red light beams directly shot out from Xiao Yaocheng's eyes. Along with the constantly increasing aura, he stood in the sky like a god, emitting an aura that could destroy the world. What a terrifying aura! I'm afraid this power has reached the top 10 on the list. Oh my god! The terrifying aura was comparable to the top 10 on the list. Tens of thousands of people trembled, and the sky was about to crack. The dark power that could subdue everything was like a curtain of night that covered the world. Everyone in the room shuddered at the thought. "Sister, you shouldn't have given him the battle phoenix soul." Huangfu Hao was like a butterfly in the wind, shivering under Xiao Yaocheng's pressure. Without waiting for Xia Qing's reply, the terrifying aura of a chaotic world god directly crushed down. "It's too late to regret now. Too late." Xiao Yaocheng's eyes shot out light, looking down at the 2 people below. "Damned woman, you asked for it, Buzz." Xiao Yaocheng clenched his hand, and a cluster of dense and vast black, glowing clouds rapidly gathered between his fingers. Soon after, it pressed down with the momentum of a mountain. In an instant, a skyscraping hand that was hundreds of meters wide directly enveloped the 2 of them. Great Calamity Hand! The huge black hand was like the power of a god from another world. Everyone's face changed again, and their eyes were full of fear. At the moment when the huge black shadow covered the sky and pressed down, Chu Hen's eyes, which were glowing with a demonic purple light, suddenly burst out with a strange blood light that was full of ferocity. Four souls unite, boundless nature. Suddenly, an extremely violent space rhythm spread from the sky above the canyon in all directions. With the eruption of the boundless evil spirit, an especially huge blood shadow appeared in the sky above the canyon without any warning. That was... Everyone's heartstrings suddenly trembled. They saw that the huge blood shadow was like a human, but not a human, like a beast, but not a beast. Although it had a human torso, it had demon claws, sharp fangs, and a horn on its head that covered the area below its eyes. It was mysterious and domineering, and behind it was a pair of tree net-like wings. The branches that constantly branched out spread out in a very orderly manner, crisscrossing and spreading out like stars in the sky. The incomparable, ferocious demon domineering descended. Bang! A heavy, earth-shattering sound exploded in the sky. Under everyone's gazes, the huge blood figure in front of Xiaqing and Huangfu, how directly extended its huge hand and directly faced the descending black palm. The shocking scene, which was comparable to the explosion of a nebula, swept across the sky. Circles of violent power rushed in all directions like a storm, and a magnificent pilgrimage platform in the center of the canyon instantly collapsed. The huge platform collapsed inch by inch, and the stone pillars that supported the sky all collapsed. Ancient buildings were covered in cracks one after another, and then they were torn apart by the fierce and piercingly cold aftermath of the astral wind. The monstrous power of darkness. The overbearing, boundless evil spirit. Chapter 1388. Boom! The ground caved in, the mountains collapsed, and the 9 heavens trembled. The collision between the berserk dark force and Yama's ferocious might was comparable to the collision between stars and meteorites. The unprecedented and terrifying impact directly shattered the entire area and overturned the entire canyon. For example, a whirlpool of wind blew up, and ancient buildings rapidly disintegrated one after another. The hurricane-like destructive power crushed the mountain peaks in all directions, and the people from the various sects and forces rapidly retreated. Retreat. Hien, Yang Su, Qing Yin, and the others were also shocked, their faces filled with horror. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear as they stared at the imposing figure in the void. Xiao Cheng, who was shrouded in a majestic momentum that could stir heaven and earth, was like a demonic god that had descended to the world. He gloomily looked at the Yama King's blood shadow, then suddenly turned his head, and his ice-cold eyes swept in Chu Hen's direction like a sharp sword. Damn thing! I should have killed you long ago. Endless murderous intent burst out from his eyes. Xiao Cheng directly pointed his spear at Chu Hen. Then he raised his palm to the sky, releasing extremely frightening energy fluctuations. Scarlet light and black arcs that resembled divine vines revolved around his fingers, along with his bulging blood vessels and tendons. It was as if every inch of his flesh and blood was filled with extremely terrifying, explosive power. Die! Xiao Cheng yelled. He swung his arm down at Chu Hen. Buzz! The 9 heavens trembled, and the sky changed color. Accompanied by a piercingly cold, murderous aura, an earth-shattering black light rapidly descended from the sky. As it moved, the black light instantly turned into an extraordinary and terrifying shadow blade. The moment it descended, the entire world sank into darkness. Dark Calamity / His first move was a sure kill technique. In Xiao Cheng's eyes, Chu Hen had already been reduced to a dead man. In a split second, facing Xiao Cheng's sure kill attack, Chu Hen's pupils faintly trembled. The 6 black dots in the depths of his pupils, which flickered with a demonic purple light, released a low and deep restlessness. Buzz, following a sharp, low cry, a purple glaze-like and gorgeous light shield astonishingly appeared in the area above Chu Hen. Shield of punishment. Bang! With an earth-shattering bang, the black shadow blade, which was filled with killing intent, was like a mysterious shuttle light that came from beyond the 9th heaven and solidly struck the purple light shield. A circle of incomparably vast light waves swept across the sky above the Grand Canyon. In an instant, the purple light shield was pierced through, and a rapidly expanding hole appeared. Chu Hen's expression changed slightly, and a solemn expression appeared on his face. This was the first time a shield had been so fragile. It was like a thin piece of paper. Xiao Yao Cheng, who had fused with the soul of the war phoenix, was actually this terrifying. Although the shield of punishment could not block Xiao Yao Cheng's attack, it more or less gave Chu Hen time to dodge. Taking advantage of that momentary pause, Chu Hen retreated as fast as he could. In the next second, the terrifying blade that pierced through the heavens seemed to be right in front of Chu Hen's body as it chopped down. Boom! The earth exploded and the ridge was cut off. The inside and outside of the Grand Canyon, which was already full of scars, was once again swept out by a storm of power. Layers of cliffs and cliffs collapsed, and ancient high platforms quickly disintegrated one after another. The people from a major sects who came could be said to be ashen-faced. Not far away, Yao anxiously shouted to Chu Hen while protecting the injured Yin-Yang beast Noni. "Brother Chu Hen, don't fight him head-on." Chu Hen frowned slightly, and his eyes swept over Xia Qing and Huang Fu Hao with some worry. Huang Fu Hao's face was pale, and he was frightened like a cicada in winter. On the contrary, Xia Qing was much calmer than expected. She just quietly watched Xiao Yao Cheng's every move. Screech! At this moment, a sharp cry of a phoenix came from Xiao Yao Cheng's body again. Xiao Yao Cheng, whose internal power was already extremely restless, became extremely unstable. Streaks of uncontrollable crimson light swam out of his body and violently clashed with the dark energy in his body. Xiao Yao Cheng's eyes were fierce, and his expression was ferocious. The blood vessels all over his body were like bulging horned dragons, which was extremely frightening. What's going on? Everyone was surprised and suspicious, and they were puzzled. The power of the soul of the war phoenix. A spirit phoenix valley disciple said in a deep voice, "Yes, the soul of the war phoenix is different from ordinary divine objects. Its power is not so easy to tame. Once it is not suppressed, it will be devoured." Then can senior brother Xiao Yao suppress the phoenix soul? I don't know. The scarlet light that was constantly leaking out was the mysterious light beam that penetrated Xiao Yao Cheng's body. At the same time, a group of blazing flames quickly overflowed and wrapped it. "Get back!" Xiao Yao Cheng shouted angrily. Then, the surging dark power formed a nebulous storm that stirred the sky, and the overbearing red flame was actually forced back. Everyone's heartstrings were stretched taut. They were secretly shocked by Xiao Yao Cheng's strength. He could actually suppress the soul of the war phoenix. "I'm going to kill you." Xiao Yao Cheng stared at Chu Hen fiercely. An extremely restless dark power surged between his palms, like a mysterious obsidian light that constantly devoured the space, forming and expanding at a speed that could be seen with one's eyes. However, before Chu Hen could prepare to face the attack, the violent dark power actually made a strange rhythm, and then, with a bang sound, it collapsed and exploded. The strong and piercingly cold whirlwind spread in all directions. Xiao Yao Cheng, who was in the black nebulous storm, was actually bathed in blood. Many of the blood vessels on his body were faintly ruptured, and even the flesh at the back of his neck was about to be separated. The overbearing power of the war phoenix soul was like an untamable fierce beast that wanted to break through the shackles and break out of the body. Not good. Everyone from Spirit Phoenix Valley was shocked. Senior brother Xiao Yao? Xiao Yao Cheng's eyes burst with anger as he glared at Chu Hen and Xia Qing. "I will not let you go." After saying that, a tsunami-like black wave rose in the void. The stars moved and the wind stacked up. Xiao Yao Cheng immediately turned into a wisp of light wings and leaped into the sky. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared in a black tornado. The sudden change caused everyone present to be stunned. As they watched the dark storm gradually dissipate and the sky return to normal, everyone's hearts that were hanging high in the air were unable to calm down. Profound Sun Palace, Heaven Condensing Pavilion, Huanyu Palace, Imperial Sword Gate, and even Spirit Phoenix Valley could not calm down. What happened today was beyond imagination, and even in their dreams, it was hard to predict. Although there were many uncertainties when it came to the Holy War, this time, it was simply too shocking. What happened today? So many big things happened. Yes, this is too much. Even a genius on the golden list died just like that. All right, where's Yuan E? Yuan E? Everyone was stunned. Only then did they remember that there was still the #1 genius of Ling Yun's sect, Yuan E, who was still alive. However, with a glance, the entire Grand Canyon had been turned upside down. All the ancient buildings were razed to the ground, and the most magnificent ascension altar no longer existed. Wherever one looked, there was not even a shadow of Yuan E. Even Chun Lu and Sun Yi, who had died previously, were nowhere to be seen. Don't look for him. I just saw with my own eyes that Yuan E was smashed to pieces by the aftermath. What? This? The crowd could not help but gasp, and they felt a chill down their spines. In less than half a day, 3 geniuses on the golden list had fallen, and one of them was from the Superforce, War God Palace. How horrifying was that? The most unexpected was the appearance of Spirit Phoenix Valley. The appearance of the Battle Phoenix soul was earth-shattering, and it was bound to set off a wave. Xiaqing's name would also be listed on the golden list. However, at present, the situation of Spirit Phoenix Valley did not seem optimistic. Although there was one more Xiaqing, there was one less Xiao Yaocheng. Of course, everyone was most concerned about what would happen to Xiao Yaocheng, who had obtained the Battle Phoenix Soul. If the fusion with the Phoenix Soul failed, Spirit Phoenix Valley would suffer a great loss. However, if Feng Lingtian were to return, Chu Hen's side would probably be terrified. Noni, are your injuries serious? Go back to the Yin-Yang Cauldron and rest. The sand and dust settled, and the crowd dispersed. The various forces gradually left the Grand Canyon, which no longer existed, with complicated and unsettled emotions. On a steep mountain peak, Yao carefully examined the injuries of the yin-yang beast, Noni. Noni's throat let out a low response, and his voice was a little soft and weak. Yao frowned slightly and rubbed his furry head with a slight heartache. It's all my fault. I knew that the enemy was so strong, but I still let you charge forward blindly. But I can't just watch Brother Chu Hen get injured. Yao pursed her red lips, and her eyes were filled with worry. Then, she subconsciously looked in another direction. On the edge of a cliff about 100 meters away, 2 young figures, a man and a woman, were standing side by side. There was an indescribable sense of meaningfulness in them. Are you hurt? Chu Hen opened his mouth and asked. Xiaqing shook her head slightly, and her pair of clear eyes looked a little like she was looking at an old friend that she hadn't seen for many years, but with a trace of warmth and gentleness. Why are you looking at me like that? Chu Hen seemed to be a little uncomfortable. The corners of Xiaqing's mouth rose slightly, and she smiled faintly. You've changed a lot, but it seems like you haven't changed at all. Chu Hen smiled. You too. Really? Yes. The two unconsciously lowered their heads, then looked up and said the same thing at the same time. How have you been all these years? How have you been all these years? Hearing each other's words, the two were stunned for a moment. Then they couldn't help but look at each other and smile. Yes, it's been pretty good. After leaving the Sacred Star Empire, Little Hao and I left the East Continent. Then we accidentally wandered to the Midland, and by a freak accident, we entered the Spirit Phoenix Valley. Xiaqing briefly summarized her experiences over the years. What about you? Why are you here? She asked, and there was a little more curiosity in her eyes. Chu Hen's eyes became a little deep. Yes. Why did he come here? Imagine, the things that happened to him in these years were like the sea, and he didn't even know where to start. I'm representing the martial sect to participate in the Holy War. Chu Hen said. Xiaqing's beautiful eyes brightened, and she looked away with a smile. Some time ago, I heard that the Soaring Cloud sect was destroyed by a person called Chu Hen. At that time, I was still thinking, how could there be such a coincidence in this world to actually have the same name as you? I didn't think it would be you. I also didn't think that I would be able to meet you here and even cause trouble for you. Chu Hen's words were a little gloomy. Xiaqing shook her head lightly. She looked at the vast forest in front of her, and her voice was as soft as a mountain breeze. All these years, I've always thought if I had enough ability to save you back then, perhaps we would have a different ending. Looking back on the past, back then, Chu Hen was not accepted by the royal family of the Sacred Star Dynasty and was hunted by the whole city. At that time, Huang Fuqing, who was both the princess and the regent of the dynasty, had been pleading for him. Unfortunately, she and Huang Fu Hao only had status, but no real power. Afterwards, he could only look on helplessly as Chu Hen's adoptive father, Long Zhan, died in order to save him. This caused Chu Hen to form an irreconcilable blood feud with the imperial family. In the end, Chu Hen returned with the spirit of revenge. He wiped out the royal power and took over the Sacred Star Dynasty. Hate far from it. Love not allowed. At the end of the day, Huang Fuqing had always felt guilty towards Chu Hen. If she had saved him back then, their fates might have been changed. Because of this guilt, when Xiao Cheng insisted on killing Chu Hen, Huang Fuqing stood in front of him without hesitation. Chu Hen was a little startled, but he didn't know how to answer. I never blamed you. Chapter 1389. I'm relieved just now. Her eyes were clear like water, and her smile was like a summer flower. Looking at her beautiful and gentle smile, Chu Hen was a little absent-minded. Then, he let out a sigh of relief, as if the grudge in his heart had disappeared. At this moment, in his eyes, she was no longer Huang Fuqing, but Xiaqing. Let's shake hands. Xiaqing looked at him with a smile, and then reached out her jade-like, slender hand. Chu Hen was startled. Let's forget everything in the past. Chu Hen smiled, and then nodded. He reached out and gently held her hand. Then let's treat it as the first day. Hello, I'm Chu Hen. I'm Xiaqing. The past dispersed like smoke, and a smile wiped out all enmity. All kinds of love and hatred in the past were blown away by the dust as they smiled at each other. From the I wish you well, and the years are peaceful back then, to today's reunion, it was like a bottle of old wine after many years, with a mellow aftertaste. All right, is it really okay for you to give the battle phoenix soul to Xiao Cheng? Then, Chu Hen brought up the matter he was more concerned about. Xiao Cheng was a top expert ranked 12th on the honor list. Now that he had obtained the phoenix soul, he would definitely become an external threat that couldn't be ignored. There was no way to ignore it. Xiaqing shook her head. It's okay. By the time he finishes fusing with the phoenix soul, the holy war will probably be over. Oh, Chu Hen was a little surprised. Almost half a year ago, on the day I obtained the battle phoenix soul, I had asked the Valley Master to give the phoenix soul to Xiao Cheng as a way to repay his kindness to me and my brother. Although the Valley Master agreed to my request, he didn't approve of me doing this when the holy war is about to begin. Why? According to the Valley Master, the battle phoenix soul has an extremely high degree of spirituality. It's very powerful, but it's not easy to tame. Xiao Cheng might have the ability to forcefully suppress the phoenix soul, but he can't do it in a short period of time. If he's not careful, he might be devoured. After listening to Xiaqing's narration, Chu Hen relaxed a little. In other words, when Xiaqing handed the battle phoenix soul to Xiao Cheng, she had already considered the consequences. First, he used the power of the phoenix soul to force Xiao Cheng to leave. By the time they finished fusing their powers, the Holy War's enlistment ended. At that time, Xiaqing and her brother, who had already returned to the Spirit Phoenix Valley, were under the protection of the Valley Master. Xiao Cheng did not dare to do anything to them. After all, Xiaqing was the one who truly received the inheritance of the Phoenix ancestor. In comparison, in Xiaqing's opinion, Chu Hen was the one she really needed to worry about. Let's not talk about Xiao Cheng for now. Just the fact that Chu Hen had killed Chen today was already a huge disaster. The people from the God of War Palace would not let this matter rest. Of course, the rule of the Holy War was that all grudges and killings would come to an end on the day of the Holy War. In other words, Once the Holy War's enlistment ended, no matter how much hatred there was, the sects would not be able to take revenge against each other. So as long as this trip ended, the God of War Palace would not be able to do anything to Chu Hen. Sister, are you guys done chatting? At this moment, Huang Fu Hao's voice came from behind them. The two of them turned around and saw that other than Huang Fu Hao, there were also Su Li and a few other Spirit Phoenix Valley disciples. Everyone looked at Chu Hen with an indescribably strange gaze. It was as if they were curious about how this person could make Xia Qing not choose Xiao Yao Cheng for him. What's wrong? Xia Qing asked. Huang Fu Hao did not speak, but glanced at Su Li beside him. The latter pursed his lips and immediately stepped forward. Junior sister Xia Qing, we have to prepare to head to the Chaotic Star Rock. Why are we going there? Su Li glanced at Chu Hen and continued. The ruins that the secret key can open are near the Chaotic Star Rock. To be honest, it could be said that Su Li had obtained the secret key by coincidence. Regardless of whether Su Li had acted earlier or later, he would not have been able to take advantage of it. It just so happened that it was after Dust Slaughter's death and before the conflict between Xiao Yao Cheng and Xia Qing broke out. It could be said that he had picked up a delicious cake without any effort. Of course, the most unexpected thing was Xiao Yao Cheng's sudden departure. Once Xiao Yao Cheng left, the overall strength of the Spirit Phoenix Valley would be greatly affected. Although Su Li was also on the reputation list, if they were to meet those top forces, he would not be able to take the lead. Therefore, Xia Qing naturally became the leader of the Spirit Phoenix Valley. Xia Qing naturally understood the thoughts of Su Li and the others. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, I understand. Let everyone get ready. We will depart for the Chaotic Star Rock in half an hour. Su Li's eyes lit up, and he replied happily. Yes. Immediately, he and the other two Spirit Phoenix Valley disciples returned in the direction they came from. Huang Fu Hao, who was left behind, looked at Chu Hen with a complicated expression and felt a little uncomfortable. I didn't expect to meet you here. Seeing the wavering gaze of the other party, Chu Hen understood tacitly. The other party was most likely worried that he would tell Xia Qing about the two of them meeting before. Regarding this, Chu Hen was not angry. After all, from Huang Fu Hao's point of view, he did not want Xia Qing to meet him again. Yes, long time no see. Chu Hen nodded politely. Seeing that Xia Qing did not suspect anything, Huang Fu Hao heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, Yi Yao led the Yinyang beast, Noni, over. Brother Chu Hen, where are we going next? Yi Yao asked. Chu Hen was startled and did not know how to answer. Xia Qing raised her eyebrows and said softly, If there is nothing else, why don't you follow us to the Chaotic Star Rock? Can I? Chu Hen looked at Huang Fu Hao and asked. The latter wanted to say something, but stopped, and could not help but roll his eyes. Xia Qing replied casually, Of course. All right then. Chu Hen naturally would not refuse. After all, the people of the martial organization and Long Xuan were currently in a state of closed-door cultivation. The remaining two idlers, Chu Hen and Yi Yao, did not have a specific goal. It was not a bad idea to follow Xia Qing to the Chaotic Star Rock. The sun and moon rotated, and night and day alternated. The black hand of the curtain of night was like a faceless ghost, extending to every corner of the earth. All of a sudden, the stars in the sky above the ninth heaven shone down. The mountain ridge below was like an awakened dark night dragon as it shook its enormous body. Soon after, the surrounding mountain peaks shot out dazzling pillars of light one after another. Soon after, all the beams of light pierced through the sky and gathered at the center. Buzz, accompanied by an incomparably strong rhythm of space, countless ancient and mysterious light patterns gradually appeared on the ground. Along with the extension of the secret scrolls, cracks that were like dried-up riverbeds quietly appeared, and a dusty aura that exuded a long and ancient aura overflowed from it. It's finally opened. In the darkness, pairs of eyes that were as sharp as an eagle quietly opened. We've been waiting for this. It's finally coming. The fog rose into the sky, and a crescent moon was hidden behind the dark clouds, emitting a faint glow. In the darkness, a magnificent palace stood towering on the peak of the mountain, exuding a supreme and cold aura. Inside the palace, cold, solemn, and silent, it was as if there was no one there. The night pearls inlaid on the walls emitted a trace of mystery. Right at the top of the palace, on a stone chair that looked like an emperor's throne room, sat a figure that looked like a stone statue. The figure's chest was hidden in the darkness, and beside him, one could not feel the slightest rhythm of the airflow. Suddenly, at this moment, the clear sound of footsteps came from afar. Under the night sky, under the soft illumination of the night pearls, a slender young figure with a calm aura slowly walked out. He stopped below the throne room. He raised his head slightly, revealing a pair of sharp and cold eyes. Dust Slaughter is dead. The silence was like a ripple that broke the surface of the water, and the abnormally clear voice rippled out into the palace. The figure on the stone chair used his left hand to gently tap on the armrest of the stone chair. "Is that so?" His calm tone did not reveal the slightest bit of joy or anger. It was as if there were no fluctuations of emotion. I really didn't expect Dust Slaughter to die in the hands of a nobody. The person below the throne room had a cold look in his eyes, but his expression was cold. In that case, the cloud-soaring sect's death was not unjust. The person on the stone chair replied calmly, "I'll go bring his head back." "No rush." The person stopped tapping on the stone chair and said, "He's just an ant. We can kill him any time we want. We have more important things to do." "Oh, that place is open." "What?" The person clenched his fists, fear surging on his face. Chapter 1390. The mountain range was long and winding like a dragon. Ancient, majestic mountains stood tall in the middle of the river, like the bright stars scattered in the Milky Way. The chaotic star Rock is in front. Sully stared at the illusory image in front of him with a burning gaze. The image glowed from the secret key in his hand, forming a concise and clear terrain map. Judging from a location marked on the map, the chaotic star Rock was only a few dozen kilometers away. Immediately, Sully clasped his 5 fingers together and kept the secret key in his hand. The illusory map floating in midair also disappeared. "It's so close, there's no need to investigate. Let's go there directly." Sully turned his gaze to Xiaqing. Once Xiao Yao Cheng left, Xiaqing, who had the strongest cultivation, naturally became the leader of the Spirit Phoenix Valley team. After all, she was the first person to obtain the soul of the Battle Phoenix. Everyone's attitude towards the siblings was completely different from before. In the past, because of Xiao Yao Cheng, they had no choice but to be polite. Now, he sincerely felt admiration for him. Xiaqing nodded and turned to Chu Hen and Yi Yao, who were standing on the other side. "Chu Hen, it's time to go." Chu Hen, who was facing the crowd, turned his head and smiled. "I won't be going with you guys. You guys go ahead." "What's wrong?" Xiaqing was startled and revealed a puzzled expression. "I want to go over there to take a look." Chu Hen raised his finger and pointed to another location. Xiaqing, Huangfu Hao, and the rest subconsciously looked over. Looking into the distance, there were many steep mountain ridges. In the sky above the depths of the mountain range, there was a black cloud. The clouds were pressing down, covering the sky and covering the earth. However, there was no thunder and no sound of rain. It gave off an indescribable, strange gloominess. "Go there." Xiaqing was a little surprised. As they had arrived earlier, they did not have the time to investigate the situation there. Moreover, the secret key they obtained had a 100% chance of opening an ancient inheritance secret territory. Therefore, in everyone's opinion, there was no need to investigate that uncertain factor and waste time heading to the chaotic star Rock. "Yeah." Chu Hen nodded in confirmation. "I feel that something is about to happen over there." Hearing that Chu Hen really wanted to leave, the Spirit Phoenix Valley disciples could not help but look at each other, their faces filled with joy. In fact, along the way, everyone looked at Chu Hen with unfriendly gazes. There was even a lot of dissatisfaction. In a way, Chu Hen was the biggest reason for Xiao Yao Cheng's sudden departure. If it weren't for Chu Hen, Xiao Yao Cheng and Xiaqing wouldn't have gone against each other at this critical juncture. Because of Xiaqing, the people from the Spirit Phoenix Valley did not openly shed all pretense of cordiality with Chu Hen. However, in their hearts, they still rejected each other. Of course, Chu Hen understood this as well. It was also because the people of Spirit Phoenix Valley were not friendly towards him that he did not wish to continue making things difficult for Xiaqing. "Then I will go with you," Xiaqing suddenly said. Once these words were spoken, the faces of those from the Spirit Phoenix Valley who were secretly rejoicing immediately changed. "Junior Xiaqing, you can't. The Chaotic Star Cliff is the central region of this holy war. There will definitely be strong enemies waiting for us. If you're not here, I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to deal with them." "That's right. Now that Senior Xiao Yao has left in a fit of anger, only you can lead us," a few people hurriedly advised. Chu Hen shook his head and smiled. "You don't have to follow me. When we return, we can meet here." Naturally, Xiaqing understood it. The people of Spirit Phoenix Valley probably thought that Chu Hen had chased Xiao Yaocheng away. If they continued to stay together, there would be a conflict sooner or later. Although Xiaqing would stand on Chu Hen's side, she had after all stayed in the Spirit Phoenix Valley for a few years. Usually, there were quite a few senior and junior brothers who took care of the two of them. Once a conflict really arose, it would really be a dilemma for them. Immediately, Xiaqing did not insist. She looked at Chu Hen and said softly, "Be careful, don't cause trouble." Chu Hen rubbed his nose in embarrassment. The other party's tone reminded him of the time when he was in the Sacred Star Empire. "Yes, I know. I will look after him," Yao, who was standing by the side, said. Xiaqing smiled lightly and did not say anything else. After exchanging a few simple sentences, Chu Hen accompanied Yi Yao and the Yin-Yang beast, Noni, and left in the opposite direction of the Chaotic Star Rock. Xiaqing led Su Li and a group of Spirit Phoenix Valley disciples towards the secret territory. A cool breeze caressed their faces. The mountains and rivers were magnificent. Yi Yao let out a long sigh of relief, as if she had been relieved of a heavy burden. "It's finally much easier. These 2 days were really too uncomfortable," Chu Hen smiled. "Is it that stifling?" "Of course. Brother Chu Hen, you didn't see it. Don't mention how angry those people were when they looked at you. It was as if they wanted to eat you up. Really a group of brainless people. Can't they see whose fault it is?" Yi Yao clenched her small fists and gritted her teeth in hatred. The 2 days of traveling together had obviously made this young lady extremely angry. If not for Xiaqing and Chu Hen's presence, Yi Yao would not have needed to fall out with the Spirit Phoenix Valley disciples. Chu Hen shook his head helplessly. "It's all right now." And Yi Yao nodded her head and looked at the towering mountain range in front of them. Her eyebrows revealed a trace of caution. But is Brother Chu Hen going there just an excuse to not make things difficult for Sister Xiaqing? "Why?" Chu Hen glanced at her. Yi Yao pursed her lips, and her eyes were filled with unspeakable doubts. "That place makes me feel a little uneasy." "Uneasy?" Chu Hen narrowed his eyes. In fact, he had the same feeling in his heart. At the same time, the curiosity in his heart grew. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 2 people and 1 beast flew across the sky like an arrow piercing through the wind, passing through the precipitous and majestic mountain range. The creeping mountains below were like ancient beasts crouching on the ground, emitting a desolate and ancient majestic aura. The sky that was covered by the dark clouds was much further away than imagined. But the closer they got, the more they could feel the unusual strangeness. Swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, Chu Hen could clearly feel that there were people rushing over from several other directions. In the lush forest below, there were ghost-like shadows constantly rushing over. It was like a crowd rushing to a grand ceremony and could not be delayed for even a moment. "Brother Chu Hen, there are a lot of people coming." Yi Yao was on guard. Chu Hen nodded, the cautiousness between his eyebrows faintly increasing. When his eyes could see the scene under the dark clouds that covered the sky, suddenly, an extremely strong wave of energy suddenly flowed in the air. "Wait a minute," Chu Hen immediately called out to Yi Yao. The latter and the Yin-Yang beast, Noni, immediately moved at the same time. Before Yi Yao could ask, there was a sudden boom, an extremely violent and earth-shattering noise, and a huge dark blue energy ball suddenly burst out in the sky in front of them. Bang! Then, an incomparably magnificent giant blue beam of light, like a volcano that had been silent for tens of thousands of years, suddenly erupted, overturning the world and rushing straight into the sky. In an instant, a mighty and terrifying shock wave rose to the sky and swept across the void and the earth. The terrifying, destructive power that could be called nirvana devoured all directions. One by one, the majestic mountains quickly disintegrated, collapsed, and exploded. Chu Hen and Yi Yao's pupils faintly shrank to the size of a needle tip. The earth-shattering scene in front of them was like the collapse of the sky and the fall of the world, making them tremble incomparably. As the tsunami-like power crushed out, the mountains were flattened and the forest disappeared. An ancient and barren aura that had been sealed for countless years rolled in the air. Buzz!